11 shocking recent archaeological discoveries that even top experts can't explain. Hello, welcome to the Ancient History Channel. Dear friends, have you ever wondered what secrets might be hiding beneath the layers of Earth? Ancient bones, mysterious tombs, or even objects that modern science still cannot explain? You know, even though humanity has come so far, reaching into space, it seems we still don't fully understand our own planet, especially its past. For decades, archaeologists around the world have been tirelessly excavating and studying, and often they've been stunned by their own discoveries. From vampire skeletons in Bulgaria, to a black coffin weighing hundreds of tons in the Egyptian desert, to ancient ships resting quietly at the bottom of the Black Sea for 2,000 years, each of these discoveries sends shivers down the spine with their mysterious and bizarre nature. Some ruins reveal civilizations that once existed and then vanished without a trace. Some artifacts don't fit into any known historical timeline, as if sent from another world. And the most terrifying part is, the deeper we dig, the more we uncover things that human reason simply cannot explain. Of course, all of this sounds chilling, but every one of these discoveries is real, documented by the world's leading archaeologists. So if you're curious to know what these discoveries are and what secrets they might hold, then in this video, let's embark on a journey to explore the 11 most shocking archaeological discoveries in recent times, findings that have left even top experts speechless. And remember, brace yourself, because after hearing them, you might see the world in a completely different way. Now, let's start with our first discovery. 32 skeletons in giant jars, a 2nd century mystery without an answer. In the peaceful garden of the Radosevic Palace, a historic building over 400 years old on the island of Hvar, Croatia, archaeologists accidentally uncovered one of the most chilling mysteries of ancient European history. Beneath what seemed like an innocent layer of soil, they discovered 32 skeletons dating from the 2nd to the 5th century AD, buried in a bizarre and unprecedented way. They were not placed in coffins, but sealed inside giant ceramic jars. These unusual graves were arranged in 20 burial pits topped with tiled roofs, reminiscent of ancient Roman funerary styles. What truly shocked experts, however, was the jar burial practice, a custom almost never seen in this region before. The jars were amphorae, a type of ceramic vessel common in many ancient Mediterranean civilizations, characterized by a bulbous body, narrow neck, and 2 symmetrical handles. Normally, amphorae were used to store wine, olive oil, or grain, not human remains. When researchers opened the jars, they were stunned to find not only skeletons, but also countless grave goods, miniature ceramic vessels used in daily life, oil lamps, bottles, coins, glass containers, and numerous other objects reflecting everyday life. This indicates that the individuals buried were not neglected. They were interred carefully, as if the ancients believed their lives would continue in the afterlife. Notably, most of the 32 skeletons belonged to children, including infants, though a few belonged to adults. Why this was the case remains a mystery. Was it a cemetery specifically for children, or a special spiritual ritual believed in by the ancients? This question continues to puzzle archaeologists. A remarkable aspect of this discovery is that because the skeletons and artifacts were sealed inside the large ceramic jars, they have been preserved almost perfectly for thousands of years. This exceptional preservation allows experts to study ancient pottery techniques, burial customs, and the material life of Mediterranean civilizations in extraordinary detail. Many jars were found to be made of special materials and fired at extremely high temperatures, showing that ancient peoples had advanced ceramic technologies far beyond what was previously imagined. Yet the greatest mystery remains. Why did they choose this method of burial? Some hypotheses suggest that these were rituals for fragile young souls, protecting children from evil spirits and allowing them to rest safely in the embrace of Mother Earth. Others propose that amphorae symbolized rebirth, like a cradle holding life, so placing the remains inside the jars represented returning the soul to its beginning. Even so, to this day, no one can say for certain why this strange burial method was practiced. All that exists are theories woven around the 32 skeletons lying quietly beneath the ancient garden. This discovery not only opens a new chapter in the archaeological history of the Balkans, but also reminds us that the ancient world still holds countless mysteries. Each giant amphora is more than a relic. It is a silent witness, telling the story of a time when humans believed that death was merely a door to another journey. And who knows? Beneath the soil of Croatia, there may still be more jars waiting to be unearthed, carrying secrets that even the world's top experts cannot yet explain. Quite possible, isn't it? The 220,000-pound black coffins buried deep beneath Egypt. If one day you found yourself lost in the blazing golden desert of Egypt and suddenly came across a dark entrance leading deep underground, would you dare to step inside? Most people would probably be terrified and shake their heads in refusal, right? But for archaeologists, nothing is off limits. Because, as you may know, right beneath those seemingly endless layers of sand lies a secret that has amazed the world for centuries. Massive black coffins weighing up to 220,000 pounds, buried deep within the ancient tomb network at Saqqara, near the step pyramid of Pharaoh Djoser in Egypt. Just hearing about it gives you chills, doesn't it? But what truly baffles researchers isn't the weight of these coffins, it's the astonishing craftsmanship. Each block of Aswan granite, an extremely hard stone, was carved with near-perfect precision. Not a single gap, not the slightest misalignment. Just thinking that people managed this over 3,000 years ago, without modern machinery or laser-cutting technology, is enough to make one question. Could this really be the work of humans? Or is it evidence of another civilization? Or even extraterrestrials? According to Egyptologists, the mastermind behind this mysterious underground tunnel system was none other than Prince Kamweset, son of the great pharaoh Ramesses II of the 19th dynasty. He is regarded as the first archaeologist of the ancient world because of his passion for collecting and preserving the relics of his ancestors. And the purpose of this construction, according to some hypotheses, was not for human burial, but to safeguard the mummies of Apis bulls, sacred animals believed to be incarnations of Ptah, the creator god in ancient Egyptian religion. Can you imagine? Each coffin weighing hundreds of tons just to hold a single bull. A striking testament to the Egyptians' devotion to the divine and the intensity of their ritual practices. The story of this strange necropolis began in 1850, when French archaeologist Auguste Mariette accidentally discovered the head of a sphinx peeking out from the thick sand of the Saqqara Desert. Sensing that something extraordinary lay beneath, he began to excavate. After months of struggling under scorching sun and shifting sands, Mariette uncovered a large stone pathway leading straight to the underground tombs. Then, when he used explosives to break through the blocking stones, a never-before-seen scene appeared. The massive black coffins we just mentioned, lying in solemn darkness, exuding an eerie yet majestic aura. Although most of Mariette's detailed excavation records have been lost over time, his work opened a new chapter in Egyptian archaeology. Remarkably, even today, researchers believe that many coffins still remain unexcavated deep within the Saqqara tomb network. Every time they dig a little further, they discover something new, a trace, an inscription, or even a clue that could reveal truths about an ancient civilization the modern world still cannot fully understand. What do you think? Are these black coffins simply the resting places of the sacred Apis bulls? Or are they evidence of advanced technology beyond the comprehension of ancient humans, only now becoming known to us? And the same question remains. If you had the chance to stand before these enormous black stones, would you believe you were gazing upon the remnants of a forgotten civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The mysterious vampire grave in Bulgaria, revealing the belief that death is not the end. In the wild borderlands between Bulgaria and Greece, a region that once witnessed mysterious ancient civilizations, archaeologists have recently uncovered a grave that has sent chills around the world. Inside, it wasn't an ordinary mummy, but the skeletal remains of a real vampire dating back to the 13th century. Evidence of the strange fears and beliefs people in the Middle Ages held about life after death. The key figure in this shocking excavation is the famous archaeologist Nikolai Ovcharov, often called the Indiana Jones of Bulgaria. While working at the ancient city of Perperikon in southern Bulgaria, he unexpectedly discovered an unusual skeleton. At first glance, it seemed no different from ordinary remains, but when the last layer of soil was removed, the entire excavation team went silent. Before them lay the skeleton of a man estimated to be 40 to 50 years old, pierced through the chest with an iron spike weighing nearly 2.2 pounds, forged from a plow blade. Most chillingly, His left leg had been removed and placed separately from the body. Archaeological records indicate that this gruesome ritual was not random. People in the past believed that if someone died under unusual circumstances, such as suicide, sudden illness, or sudden death, their soul would not rest and could return to haunt the living as a vampire. To prevent this, the dead were pierced and dismembered, ensuring that the vampire could not leave the grave. It sounds terrifying, doesn't it? But for medieval people, this was the only way to ensure that the dead would remain peacefully buried. Interestingly, this discovery is not unique. According to Božidar Dimitrov, director of the National History Museum in Sofia, over 100 vampire skeletons have been found in this region, showing how widespread the belief in the undead once was. One particularly notable find occurred in 2012, when archaeologists unearthed twin vampire skeletons in the city of Sozopol, not far from Perperikon. The first skeleton was a man whose legs were bound and pierced through the chest with an iron spike, a clear symbol of the protective ritual. The second was even more chilling, the remains of the notorious pirate Krivich, condemned for spreading disaster. Instead of iron, a sharp stone had been driven through his chest, a curse to ensure he would never rise to take revenge. In some other graves, archaeologists even found cats or chickens buried alongside the deceased. According to ancient belief, these animals watched over the soul, preventing it from leaving the grave while protecting the villagers from misfortune. You see, these images make us reflect. In an age without science, humans used faith and ritual to confront their fear of death. Therefore, the discovery of this vampire grave is not just an archaeological artifact. It opens a window into the spiritual world of the past, where the line between the living and the dead was frighteningly thin. And from this discovery arise many questions. Are vampires real, or are they products of imagination and fear? Were these rituals mere superstition, or traces of a deep belief we still cannot fully understand? It is difficult to answer these questions. All we know is that beneath the soil of Bulgaria, skeletons pierced through the chest still lie in silence, a reminder that sometimes humans fear death not because it ends everything, but because they believe something far scarier may lie beyond it. 3,000-year-old mummy found beneath a landfill reveals the gruesome sacrificial rituals of an ancient civilization. In the bustling heart of Lima, Peru, a place people usually associate only with the sounds of traffic and the smell of trash, a secret has been hiding that has stunned the archaeological world. Buried beneath tons of modern waste, researchers unexpectedly uncovered a mummy over 3,000 years old, revealing traces of a mysterious ancient civilization, the Manche culture, where people once believed that human sacrifice was a way to communicate with the gods. This remarkable discovery was made by a team of archaeologists and students from the National University of San Marcos. While surveying what seemed like a worthless plot of land, strands of hair and part of a human skull suddenly emerged from the trash, causing the team to halt immediately. At first, everyone assumed it was just leftover animal bones. But as they dug deeper, the situation quickly exceeded all expectations. Beneath the layers of trash, weighing over 16,500 pounds, lay a fully intact mummy, positioned in the traditional fetal posture of ancient people. To remove the mummy, the team had to clear roughly 16,500 pounds of garbage and soil, an enormous task for such a small area. When the final layer of soil was cleared, the team was astonished to find a mummy incredibly well preserved, even after more than 3 millennia. The area was immediately cordoned off for careful excavation and study. What made this discovery even more fascinating were the ancient artifacts found around the mummy: corn kernels, coca leaves, and other seeds. These were common offerings in ancient Peruvian religious rituals. According to archaeologist Miguel Aguilar, the artifacts, combined with the mummy's seated posture and burial location, suggest that this individual was likely a sacrificial victim in a final ritual during the construction of an ancient temple. Preliminary analysis shows that the mummy bears the clear characteristics of the Manche culture, which existed roughly 1,500 to 1000 BCE. The Manche were known for building U-shaped temples oriented toward the sun, reflecting their deep reverence for the gods and the cosmos. Remarkably, this mummy was found precisely within an ancient U-shaped structure, suggesting that the individual may have been chosen as a bridge between the human world and the divine. According to the research team's hypothesis, the Manche believed that human sacrifices performed at the final stage of temple construction would bring blessings and eternal protection from the gods. Those selected for sacrifice were often healthy, socially important individuals, considered chosen by the gods, rather than mere victims. Looking back, it is astonishing that in the middle of a 21st century landfill, people could uncover a living witness of a civilization lost over 3,000 years ago. The image of the mummy lying silently amid the garbage is haunting, a stark contrast between the sacred past and the harsh present. A mummy under a landfill may sound like a tale from fiction, yet it is a real fragment of history, offering insight into how ancient people confronted death, faith, and their desire to reach the divine. Perhaps they could never have imagined that after thousands of years, their story would be discovered amid the modern waste, serving as a reminder that the past never truly disappears. 60 ships, 2,000 years old, found intact as if they sank yesterday in the Black Sea. Beneath the dark waters of the Black Sea, a place that seems ruled only by silence and darkness, archaeologists have discovered an unexpected treasure. Over 60 ancient ships resting on the seabed, some of which have been asleep for more than 2,000 years, yet their hulls remain astonishingly intact. Yes, you heard that right. Roman, Greek, and Ottoman ships still stand on the ocean floor as if time never touched them. This groundbreaking discovery comes from the Black Sea Map Project, one of the largest underwater archaeology projects in the world. Initially, the team was not hunting for shipwrecks, but studying the ancient environmental changes of the Black Sea region, particularly the effects of sea level rise after the last ice age. However, while using deep-diving robots to survey the Bulgarian coastline, they unexpectedly uncovered a massive cemetery of ancient ships, astonishing the scientific community. What amazed researchers even more was the state of preservation of the vessels. At depths of thousands of feet, where sunlight barely reaches, oxygen is scarce, and few organisms survive. The seabed acts as a perfect natural storage chamber. Without microorganisms or marine life to destroy the wood, the hulls, rudders, masts, ropes, and even cargo remain as if newly built. On a Roman ship more than 2,000 years old, scientists even found ropes still soft to the touch, as if they had been tied yesterday. Some of these ships were previously known only through ancient paintings and murals, but now they appear vividly in reality, offering humanity the chance to witness the shipbuilding techniques of the ancients firsthand. Imagine a Greek merchant ship, its rudder still attached, cargo neatly stacked on the deck, and the hull standing upright in the dark waters. The scene resembles an underwater museum, where time has been frozen for millennia. To preserve and study every detail, Professor John Adams' team from the University of Southampton in the UK used the world's most advanced 3D printing technology to replicate the full structure of these ships. This allowed them to reconstruct each vessel in real space, essentially restoring a portion of history buried beneath the sea. After 3 years of continuous exploration, the Black Sea Map Project surveyed over 810 miles of seabed, collected more than 100 sediment core samples, and discovered a total of 60 ancient shipwrecks, including 20 found in the final stage of the project. The data collected not only helped scientists reconstruct the ancient environment, but also provided insights into how people lived, traded, and migrated across the region through time. What is particularly remarkable is that each shipwreck revealed more than just trade routes and maritime techniques. They also carried traces of civilization itself, showing how ancient humans crossed oceans, traded goods, and told their stories through these vessels. With every ship brought to light, we open another window into the past, where humans, the sea, and time continue to narrate a story that has never truly ended. 742 skeletons, 9,000 years old, discovered in Turkey. If there is any place in the world that could be considered the cradle of urban life, it is likely Çatalhöyük, an archaeological site in central Turkey, once a bustling city 9,000 years ago. And believe it or not, among these ancient ruins, scientists have uncovered 742 human skeletons, a staggering number that sent shockwaves through the archaeology community. These skeletons don't just tell the story of life during the Stone Age, they also reveal a horrifying tale of disease, violence, famine, and societal collapse, what many now refer to as the curse of the first city on Earth. According to Professor Clark Spencer Larson, an anthropologist at Ohio State University, Çatalhöyük was a thriving settlement from around 7,100 BCE, home to approximately 8,000 residents. Many believe this to be humanity's first city, marking the transition from a nomadic lifestyle to permanent settlement. But beneath the lively appearance lay a dark reality few could have imagined. Residents lived so densely packed that houses were built wall to wall, leaving almost no passageways between them. Unable to enter through doors as usual, people had to climb ladders onto rooftops and slide down inside. Can you imagine that? A city where people had to crawl through roofs to get into their homes? That alone shows just how cramped and suffocating life must have been. During excavations, researchers discovered that 25% of the first 95 skeletons had cracks in the skull, indicating deaths caused by violence or severe impacts. Additionally, 33% of the total 742 skeletons showed signs of infection, likely due to unsanitary living conditions. The team also found accumulations of human and animal waste within the floors and walls, revealing just how filthy the environment was. Poor nutrition further weakened the residents' health. Evidence shows that 13% of women and 10% of men had severe tooth decay, as their diet consisted mostly of grains, lacking sufficient meat and vegetables. As the population grew and food became scarce, people had to walk long distances daily to find sustenance, which over time caused deformities in their leg bones. Overcrowding, scarcity, disease, and violence spread relentlessly, slowly turning Çatalhöyük into a city of the dead. Each skeleton unearthed here is not only the remnant of a person who once lived, but also a testament to a civilization that collapsed under the weight of its own progress. After roughly 1,000 years, humanity's first city disappeared, leaving behind a haunting question. Could this be a warning from the past to our modern world? Perhaps the clearest answer lies in observation. The more humans develop, the denser the population grows, and the more the environment suffers, the more the tragedies experienced by Çatalhöyük's residents may mirror our own era. Çatalhöyük, therefore, is not just an archaeological site, it is a mirror of human history, a place where humanity first learned to live together, and also a place that reminds us that every step of civilization comes at a cost. 2,000-year-old mummy found in Yemen. Dump reveals traces of the legendary Saba kingdom. In the heart of Sana'a, Yemen, a city still scarred by the sounds of bombs and the smoke of war, a shocking discovery has stunned the world. Amid piles of garbage, a 2,000-year-old mummy was found, curled up in a fetal position and wrapped in animal skin, a mummification style characteristic of ancient Yemen. What distressed archaeologists the most, however, was that the mummy's abdomen had been sliced open, clear evidence that it had fallen victim to grave robbers, thieves who plunder historical treasures for profit on the black market. According to the Yemen Antiquities and Museums Organization, this mummy likely dates back to the 3rd century BCE, meaning it lived during the glorious era of the Saba kingdom, a land believed by legend to have been home to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The mere thought sends shivers down the spine. Amidst today's trash, there lies a witness to a civilization that vanished thousands of years ago. The Saba kingdom was once a prosperous trading empire, enriched by its strategic location along key maritime routes. From here, camel caravans loaded with frankincense, myrrh, and gold-crossed scorching deserts, spreading the fame of the Sabaeans far and wide. During this period, they also pioneered mummification techniques, becoming the 3rd civilization in the world to preserve human bodies after the Egyptians and the Chileans. Yet tragically, that heritage is now being eroded by war and poverty. The discovery of this 2,000-year-old mummy, discarded in a dump, has sparked outrage among local residents. Their anger is not only about the desecration of a historical relic, but also reflects the collective pain of a nation, as priceless artifacts are continuously looted and smuggled out of the country. Meanwhile, preservation institutions are struggling amid ongoing conflict. The Sana'a National Museum has taken in the mummy for safekeeping, but experts warn that bacteria are beginning to infiltrate it, and without urgent intervention, it could completely decompose. Researcher Abdullah Mohsen, who monitors antiquities smuggling in Yemen, notes that many more ancient mummies remain hidden in natural and man-made caves across regions such as Saba, Himyar, Kataban, Ausan, Main, and Hadramaut. These caves were once sacred resting places for Yemen's ancestors, but have now become targets for profit-driven treasure hunters. Even the Sana'a University Museum, currently caring for 12 mummies, struggles daily due to insufficient preservation conditions, leaving these priceless relics at high risk of destruction. It is heartbreaking. A country already suffering the world's most severe humanitarian crisis must also bear the burden of protecting thousands of years of ancestral memory. Amid the smoke and flames of war, these mummies are not merely the remains of people who have passed. They are the souls of an entire civilization, striving to preserve its existence. Imagine if, one day, the remaining mummies were lost. The stories of the glorious Saba kingdom, of merchants crossing deserts with frankincense and myrrh, would vanish forever into the sands of time. It is a sobering thought. Do you think humanity is forgetting its responsibility to preserve the past? A past that holds lessons no book could ever replace? Share your thoughts below so we can continue this conversation. The sleeping mummy from a northern European bog, 2,400 years old, sends shivers around the world. Can you believe that in a cold, damp bog, a body could be preserved so perfectly for over 2,400 years that it looks as if the person had just fallen asleep? It sounds almost unbelievable, right? But this extraordinary story is entirely true, and it began in the 1950s in Silkeborg, Denmark, when a family was digging peat for fuel. While digging, they stumbled upon something soft, resembling a real human body. Judging by the skeletal shape, it was a man. He lay curled up in a fetal position with a rope still around his neck. The state of preservation was so perfect that the family was terrified, thinking this might be the victim of a recent murder, and they immediately called the police. When scientists investigated, they were astonished to discover that this was not a modern crime scene, but an ancient mummy dating back over 2.5 millennia. Further analysis revealed that the man had died around 405 to 380 BCE during the early Iron Age in Northern Europe. He came to be known as Tolland Man, named after the village where his body was found. From that moment, Tolland Man became one of the most mysterious and famous mummies in the world. What makes Tolland Man particularly remarkable is not just his age, but his extraordinarily serene facial expression. Just think about it. A man who was hanged, yet his face shows no trace of fear or pain. Instead, he looks calm, almost as if he is sleeping through a dream lasting millennia. What does this tell us? Many researchers believe that Tolland Man was not a victim of a crime, but possibly a person chosen in a sacred ritual sacrifice, an offering to the gods to ensure a good harvest or divine protection. Of course, this is still a hypothesis. The truth remains unknown. But the most astonishing part is yet to come. Despite lying in a dark peat bog for 2,400 years, Tolland Man's skin, hair, beard, and facial features remain remarkably intact. How could a human body survive so long? The answer lies in the peat bog itself, an environment that paradoxically acts as a perfect natural coffin. Northern European peat bogs are highly acidic, low in oxygen, and almost devoid of microorganisms, creating conditions that completely halt decomposition. Soft tissues, skin, and Tolland Man's body were essentially sealed and preserved for millennia, almost frozen in time. If you see a close-up photo of his face, it is enough to make your skin crawl. He looks as if he is merely napping, not someone who left the world more than 24 centuries ago. After excavation, Tolland Man's head was preserved at the Silkeborg Museum in Denmark, while his body was reconstructed in wax based on detailed research data. Every year, thousands of visitors come, not only to see an ancient mummy, but to confront the timeless questions of life and death. Did he know he would be sacrificed? Did he step onto the hanging scaffold voluntarily? Or was he simply a victim of a harsh ritual that history has forgotten to record? Tolland Man remains there, under the dim museum lights, eyes half closed, face peaceful, as if dreaming of an ancient era. And perhaps, to this day, he still holds the secrets of 2,400 years of history, waiting for someone patient enough to listen to the story of the man from the bog. The mysterious tomb, beneath the lake, guarded by 3,000 sacred swords. Did you know that hidden beneath the calm waters of a lake in Suzhou, Jiangsu Province, China, there lies a secret that has endured for over 2,500 years, the tomb of King Helu of Wu, a legendary ruler in ancient Chinese history? According to records, the tomb is located at the foot of Tiger Hill, in the middle of a lake approximately 180 feet across and more than 16 feet deep. Legend has it that inside the tomb, 3,000 treasured swords were buried to protect their master in his eternal rest. For more than 2 millennia, no one has been able to touch that secret. The story goes that after King Helu passed away in 496 BCE, his son Fusai mobilized millions of laborers across the kingdom to construct the tomb for his father. Knowing that his father had been passionate about swordsmanship throughout his life, Fusai arranged for 3,000 swords to be buried in the tomb, including some called sacred swords, each believed to carry the spirit of a legendary blacksmith. Because of this, people believe the tomb is not only buried deep beneath the lake, but also guarded by the souls of the 3,000 swords. Throughout history, many have tried to infiltrate the tomb, but all attempts failed. The first was King Gujian of Yue, the longtime enemy of the Wu kingdom. After defeating Fusai, he sought to seize the treasure inside King Helu's tomb, but despite deploying countless people, he could not find an entrance. Over 200 years later, Qin Shi Huang, the powerful emperor of China, also sent troops to Tiger Hill, determined to open the tomb. Yet the result was the same. The tomb remained silent and impenetrable, as if some mysterious power was guarding it. Over time, King Helu's tomb became a legend. In 1512, during a severe drought, the water around the tomb receded, revealing the lakebed and traces of an ancient structure. The renowned scholar Tang Bohu, one of the 4 great talents of Jiangnan, eagerly prepared to excavate. But just before the operation, local authorities forbade him, and the tomb quietly sank beneath the water once again. It was not until 1955 that modern experts drained part of the lake for a survey. They discovered inscriptions carved in stone by Tang Bohu and other historical figures, proving that King Helu's tomb was real and not merely legend. However, after much discussion, archaeologists decided not to excavate, opting to preserve the site. In 1978, another team of experts resumed the search. After clearing the mud from the lakebed, they found a triangular cave, believed to be the entrance to the tomb. But upon reaching the heavy stone door, they realized that above it stood Tiger Hill Tower, a cultural landmark of Suzhou. Breaking the door could cause the tower to collapse. Faced with the choice between treasure and heritage, they were forced to stop. To this day, King Helu's tomb remains undisturbed beneath the lake, and the 3,000 sacred swords, the pride of the Wu kingdom, are said to be resting alongside their warrior king. Archaeologists call it the most impenetrable tomb in China, while locals believe that anyone attempting to enter would face misfortune, for the spirits of the 3,000 swords still guard their master. So, what do you think? Is the tomb truly guarded by sacred swords, or is it simply an ingenious structure ahead of its time? And if one day humans manage to excavate King Helu's tomb, will the legendary 3,000 sacred swords truly exist, or has a mysterious shroud covered them for over 2,500 years? I believe the tomb is entirely real. It's just that no one has been brave enough to open it yet. The 3,500-year-old Princess's Chamber, a gateway into the royal world of ancient Egypt. Along a small cliff on the west bank of the Nile River in Egypt, archaeologists have recently uncovered a mysterious tomb, believed to be the chamber of a princess from the Thutmose dynasty, the golden age of ancient Egypt some 3,500 years ago. The story began when a team from the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt, in collaboration with Cambridge University, conducted a survey of the Valley of the Queens, the final resting place of many noblewomen throughout Egyptian history. While tracing the remnants of a sand-covered entrance, they discovered an ancient stone staircase leading deep underground. Each step seemed to represent a layer of time, each turn a whisper from the past. At the end of the descent, a sealed stone door had patiently waited for millennia to be opened. When the door finally swung open, the team was met with a breathtaking sight. Before them lay an ancient royal chamber, once the resting place of a royal figure, possibly a princess or a consort of a Thutmose prince. Despite the passage of thousands of years, traces of luxury and opulence were still clearly visible. Faded painted walls, intricately carved decorations, and meticulous arrangements reflecting royal status. Time, however, spares no one. The tomb had suffered from flooding and sediment intrusion, causing significant damage. Walls that once glowed with color were now dull stone fragments, and funerary objects lay buried under layers of mud. Yet for archaeologists, every shard of pottery, every small carving is priceless, offering clues to reconstruct the story of a long-lost golden age. To fully appreciate the significance of this discovery, we must look back to the Thutmose dynasty, the era that produced legendary figures such as Pharaoh Hatshepsut, the heretic king Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, and the boy prince Tutankhamun, an immortal symbol of ancient Egypt. This was a period when Egypt reached its pinnacle in art, religion, and power. Princesses and queens of this dynasty were consistently buried in highly sophisticated tombs imbued with sacred rituals. The features of the newly discovered chamber indicate that its occupant held very high status. The layout, the choice of stone, and the style of decoration all correspond to other tombs of the Thutmose royal class. While the princess's exact identity remains unknown, scientists believe that the mummy and funerary artifacts may hold the key to uncovering her true story. They are conducting CT scans and DNA analyses to find the answers. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is its symbolic meaning. The chamber was not just a final resting place for a noblewoman. It served as a gateway into the spiritual world of ancient Egypt, where death was not an end, but the beginning of a journey into the afterlife. The stairs leading down to the tomb might have represented a path connecting the living world to eternity, while the stone enclosure acted as a protective barrier, shielding the soul from the ravages of time. Even in the cold, dark shadows along the Nile, the tomb radiates a mysterious and haunting beauty. It reminds us that, even after 3,500 years, humans have never stopped being curious about life and death. The rare wine ship at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. Hundreds of bottles of 170-year-old champagne, wine, and royal mineral water. In the icy waters of the Baltic Sea, where silvery waves crash endlessly against the Swedish coastline, a team of divers made a stunning accidental discovery. A mysterious sailing ship that had lain undisturbed for nearly 2 centuries on the seabed. What shocked the world, however, was not just the discovery of an old shipwreck, but the extraordinary treasure it carried. Hundreds of bottles of champagne, wine, and rare mineral water, once considered a miracle elixir, reserved for 19th century European royalty. The find was made by the Polish diving team Baltic, led by veteran diver Tomasz Stachura. They discovered the wreck about 20 nautical miles off the coast of Sweden. When their diving lights pierced the thick layer of sediment, they were breathless at the sight of a 19th century sailing ship, nearly intact, with its cargo hold stacked with barrels, ceramic jars, and over 100 bottles of champagne and mineral water miraculously preserved in the cold seawater. Stachura stated in a press release, "We've never seen a shipwreck carrying so much cargo. Everything looks as if it were just loaded yesterday." Initially, the team thought it was merely a sunken fishing vessel, but the deeper they explored, the more they realized they were witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime archaeological discovery. What particularly amazed researchers were the clay bottles of mineral water among the champagne and wine. They bore the seal of Selters, a prestigious German mineral water brand famous in the 19th century, reserved exclusively for nobility and royalty. At the time, Selters was even regarded as a royal tonic, believed to heal ailments and prolong life. Experts have determined that these bottles were produced between 1850 and 1867, meaning the ship has been underwater for at least 170 years. Given the historical value, the Swedish authorities had to deploy police to guard the salvage area and escort the transport of these artifacts to safety. Stachura added, "The bottles are so valuable that police accompany every move. They're not just collectibles, they are living heritage from a bygone era." The divers discovered the ship on July 11th. After careful consideration, they decided to descend. They intended a quick inspection, but the scene before them made them lose track of time. 2 hours of continuous diving, meticulously documenting every detail. Wooden barrels, ceramic jars, and wine bottles were lined up as if awaiting unloading from centuries ago. Currently, the wreck remains undisturbed on the seabed outside Sweden's exclusive economic zone. Experts are cautious about salvaging it, fearing any mishandling could break the precious bottles. Preparations are also needed for logistics and the diver's mindset. No one is allowed to take a sneak sip before everything is secured. Thomas joked, "It's been there for 170 years. One more year won't hurt, as long as everything stays intact and no one gets drunk at sea." Humorous, right? In the cold, roaring Baltic, the centuries-old ship still silently guards hundreds of bottles of wine, mineral water, and ceramic treasures. Archaeology is serious business, but this time, the divers probably imagined themselves as 19th century aristocrats, marveling at the cargo while silently wishing for a sip of champagne underwater. Now imagine yourself diving in the Baltic and seeing these 170-year-old bottles. What would you think? How astonishing and slightly funny would that moment be? Would you dare to try a sip of history? 12 most mysterious recent archaeological discoveries that made scientists. The salt mummies of Iran. Did you know that near the quiet village of Hamzalu, about 46 miles northwest of the city of Zanjan, Iran, lies a place that seems unremarkable at first glance? Nothing but vast fields of white salt? Yet beneath that layer of salt hides a secret so chilling that it has stunned archaeologists around the world. Mummified bodies preserved entirely by salt for thousands of years. This is the Cherabad Salt Mine, a natural site that dates back millions of years, formed during the Miocene epoch, long before humans ever walked the earth. But this place, made up of nothing more than salty rocks and gypsum, eventually became a collective tomb for a group of ill-fated people known as the Salt Men of Iran. The story began in 1993, when a group of miners working in Duzlak, near the village of Hamzehli, accidentally unearthed a human head embedded in solid salt. Astonishingly, the face appeared almost intact. The man's hair, mustache, and even his gold earrings were still perfectly preserved, shining as if they had just been placed there the day before. The discovery shocked authorities in Tehran, who immediately ordered the site to be sealed off and all mining operations halted. Soon after, a team of archaeologists and specialists from across Iran arrived to excavate the area. As they dug deeper, they not only found the rest of the man's body, but also a remarkable collection of personal belongings: a nearly intact leather shoe, 3 iron knives, wool clothing, silver needles, leather straps, a whetstone, a walnut, and fragments of ancient pottery. Each item served as a small puzzle piece, slowly revealing the stories of those buried here. Over time, more discoveries followed. In 2004, another body was found, and over the next 6 years, a total of 4 additional salt men were uncovered. Alongside them were wooden tools, garments, and pottery dating back roughly 2,200 years to the era of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Based on analysis, archaeologists believe these individuals were miners who died in a catastrophic cave-in when massive blocks of salt collapsed and buried them alive. Yet each salt man tells a different story. Take the first salt man, for example. Tests showed he had B+ blood type, and his skull had a fracture near the eye socket, evidence that he had been struck on the head before death. Moreover, his gold earrings and fine clothing suggested he was a wealthy man, not a common laborer. Why was he in the mine? Was it an accident or something more sinister? No one knows for sure. Then there's the fourth salt man, a teenage boy only about 16 years old, whose body was astonishingly well preserved, crushed within a narrow crevice of the mine. The fifth salt man carried traces of tapeworm parasites, indicating he ate undercooked meat, a small but groundbreaking clue, marking the first evidence of parasitic infection in ancient Persia. As for the sixth salt man, his body remains untouched deep within the mine, so fragile that even a single touch could cause it to crumble. Experts believe that these individuals did not all die at the same time, but across different periods, with the oldest remains dating back as far as 9550 BCE. This makes the Cherabad mine a massive natural museum, where salt has acted both as a killer and a preserver, drawing moisture out of human bodies, yet keeping them remarkably intact for millennia. Today, 5 of the 6 mummies are displayed at the Zanjan Archaeological Museum and the National Museum of Iran in Tehran. If you ever find yourself in Iran, you can see these salt men with your own eyes, silent witnesses of a chapter of history buried under thousands of tons of salt, who, after countless centuries, have returned to tell their stories through the haunting stillness of time. 26 sets of remains in the House of the Devil Doctor, revealing the horrifying truth behind it. If anyone asks which case sent shivers down the spine of the entire nation of France in the 20th century, the name Marcel-André Henri Félix Petiot, better known by his chilling nickname Dr. Satan, would undoubtedly top the list. His story is not just the journey of a serial killer's crimes, but a terrifying testament to how evil can hide beneath the white coat of a healer. Petiot was born in 1897 in a quiet small town in France. From a young age, he showed abnormal signs, diagnosed with mental illness, displaying antisocial tendencies, and frequently expelled from school. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, this very man donned the white coat and became a trusted physician. Few knew that behind his intellectual facade lurked a dark soul gradually being swallowed by the shadows. And did you know, during World War I, Petiot served in the military but was injured and required long-term treatment. Instead of recovering, he was accused of stealing medicines and medical equipment, the first act signaling the start of a chain of crimes. After the war, Petiot continued his medical studies and opened a private practice, but rather than healing the sick, he slid into shady dealings like trafficking narcotics, performing illegal abortions, and exploiting patients. Then came the real turning point in 1926, when a patient's daughter suddenly vanished after visiting his home for treatment. Police naturally suspected him, but found no evidence to charge him, and Petiot walked free. From then on, he became more cunning and cautious, only for the evil within him to reach its peak during World War II. When France fell to the Nazis, people lived in fear, and many Jews and resistance fighters sought to flee the country. Petiot exploited the chaos, posing as an escape facilitator, promising to smuggle them to safe havens, as long as they handed over cash, gold, and all their belongings. Who wouldn't trust a doctor? Who would imagine their savior was actually their killer? And so, up to 26 people followed Petiot to his house at 21 Rue Le Sueur in Paris. But once the door of that house closed, not a single one ever walked out alive. Petiot would inject cyanide into his victims, killing them instantly, then strip them of their possessions and dispose of the bodies by burning them or dissolving them in quicklime. For years he lived openly in the heart of Paris, wealthy and respectable, while in the basement of his home lay 26 partially burned skeletons, gruesome evidence of the souls whose lives he had stolen. The truth only came to light when neighbors began complaining about the foul stench and thick black smoke rising from his property. Police quickly arrived, broke down the door, and were confronted with a scene so horrific it defied belief. Before their eyes were bags of human ashes, skulls, bones, and piles of victims' belongings, watches, rings, wallets, personal items, all of it damning evidence that led to Petiot's immediate arrest. Even more chilling, Petiot showed no remorse. After Paris was liberated, he went on the run. He even disguised himself and joined the hunt for Marcel Petiot, meaning he was hunting himself. But no matter how clever, this old fox couldn't escape justice forever. In 1946, he was captured, charged with murdering at least 27 people, though he admitted to 19. On May 25, 1946, Dr. Satan Marcel Petiot was officially executed by guillotine, closing one of the darkest chapters in French criminal history. His house, once home to 26 sets of remains, still sends chills down people's spines whenever it's mentioned. A doctor, a symbol of compassion, turned into a cold-blooded killer. It's infuriating, isn't it? That's why they say Petiot's story is not just a warning about greed and cruelty, but proof that sometimes the devil doesn't wear horns. He wears a doctor's cap, my friends. The most brutal man-eating tomb in China that claimed 80 grave robbers in its traps. When it comes to mysterious ancient tombs in China, most people immediately think of Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum, shrouded in chilling rumors of rivers of mercury, mechanical traps, and magnetic forces so powerful that even modern technology dares not touch it. But did you know that deep in Hubei province, China, there exists a tomb far more savage, not because of its grandeur, but because of the ruthless way it devours anyone who dares disturb it? The most horrifying part? At least 80 grave robbers met their gruesome ends inside that very crypt. The story began completely by accident. One day in 2004, residents in Xiangyang, Hubei province, were digging a foundation for a new house when their shovels struck a strange stone slab. Etched into it were ancient twisting characters, deeply carved and nearly illegible. Sensing something unusual, the locals immediately alerted local heritage authorities. Archaeologists were dispatched right away, and what they uncovered wasn't just an ordinary tombstone, it was the entrance to an ancient mausoleum dating back to the 5 Dynasties period, over 1,000 years ago. As the excavation team began clearing the passage downward, they stumbled upon a scene that left everyone stunned and chilled to the bone. Besides the remains identified as those of a powerful queen, The tomb contained 80 human skeletons scattered everywhere, frozen in various poses. Some appeared to be crawling, others still clutching digging tools, and one even lay slumped against the tomb door as if desperately trying to escape. At first, experts thought these were victims buried alive with the queen, a brutal sacrificial ritual. But upon closer examination, the skeletons dated to completely different eras, spanning multiple dynasties. Scattered among them were grave-robbing tools, iron shovels, oil lamps, and antiquities looting gear. From this, archaeologists concluded all 80 were tomb raiders who met the same tragic fate, dying horribly inside the very tomb they intended to plunder. But the biggest question remained: how could 80 people die without a single one escaping? The answer lay at the end of the tunnel leading to the queen's coffin chamber. There, experts discovered a pit about 23 feet deep, directly above which was packed a massive layer of fine sand, a classic, ingeniously cruel quicksand trap far beyond imagination. Its mechanism was merciless. When robbers tunneled in or crawled through, they unknowingly disrupted the structure holding the sand above. The sand then poured down like a waterfall, instantly sealing the exit. The unlucky intruders were gradually buried in darkness, suffocating from lack of oxygen, unable to move or escape. Many likely died in panic as their companions were buried alive alongside them. For centuries, this tomb functioned like a death trap. Anyone who approached lost their life. Looking at the skeletons still gripping their tools, archaeologists couldn't help but shudder. Some had died just a few hundred years ago, while others had been entombed since the Song, Ming, or even earlier dynasties. Generation after generation, the tomb silently collected more lives, like a bottomless pit swallowing human greed. Today, the Xiangyang Mausoleum is sealed and under strict protection. Though experts now partially understand the trap's mechanism, no one dares venture deeper. It's not just a priceless archaeological site, it's the most bloodthirsty tomb in ancient Chinese history. A stark reminder that some secrets buried in the earth are best left untouched. The 400-year-old love letter, found on a Korean mummy, a discovery that brought the world to tears. Have you ever imagined that inside a cold, silent tomb, beside a mummy that has lain still for centuries, there could exist a love letter so heartbreaking it could move the world to tears? In the city of Andong, South Korea, archaeologists made a discovery that left everyone speechless. A handwritten letter from a pregnant wife to her late husband, written more than 400 years ago. That husband was Ung Tai, a member of the ancient Goseong Yi clan, one of the most prestigious families in Korean history. When scientists excavated the tomb, they were astonished to find an incredibly well-preserved mummy inside the decayed wooden coffin. The man's skin, hair, and beard were still visible, a sign that he had once been tall, strong, and strikingly handsome compared to others of his time. Dr. Sekwon Yim, former director of the Andong National University Museum, recalled, "The moment I saw his face, with that thick mustache and strong features, I felt as though I were standing before a man of remarkable presence and charm." But what truly moved everyone wasn't the mummy itself, it was the letter placed upon his chest. It was written by his pregnant wife, filled with unbearable grief and despair. The letter wasn't long, yet every line pierced the heart of anyone who read it. It said, "I cannot live without you. I want to go with you. Please take me wherever you are. In this world, I will never forget the love I have for you. The sorrow of being without you feels endless. How can I go on living with our unborn child without you by my side?" Those trembling words seemed to have been written in a moment of utter hopelessness. The woman, alone, pregnant, and mourning the man she loved most, poured her entire soul into that final letter. She placed it on her husband's chest, as if hoping he could somehow read it in the next world. Beside his head, she also left a pair of sandals woven from her own hair, a powerful symbol of eternal love in old Korean culture. According to Korean folklore, such sandals were a blessing, a wish for the loved one's health and peace, no matter where they might be. And when the letter was first read aloud, the excavation team fell silent. Not a single word was spoken. Between the layers of centuries-old dust, the love of that woman still shone, untouched, unforgotten, unburied by time. The letter stands not only as evidence of a tragic romance between two young souls, but also as a deeply human story of devotion, faith, and pain, emotions that transcend every era. Today, Ung Tai's mummy, along with 12 others found in the same burial site, is being carefully studied by Korean scientists. The identity of his wife remains a mystery, yet this 400-year-old love letter has transcended the limits of time, moving hearts around the world and honoring an undying love between two people separated by centuries. Among all the relics ever discovered, few are as beautiful and as heartbreaking as this one: a mummy and a letter. A man who died and a woman who could not forget. 400 years have passed, the world has changed, but her longing still lives on, a timeless reminder that true love never dies. It merely becomes the wind and stays forever beside the one it loves. 7,100-year-old skeleton reveals a mysterious ghost human never before known. If you think human history has already been fully written, this discovery will make you think again. Deep beneath the soil of Yunnan Province, China, a region of mist-covered mountains and ancient hidden sites, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a ghost human, a mysterious lineage of people never before recorded in human history. And it all began with a 7,100-year-old skeleton, that of a woman known as Xingyi_en. The story takes place at the Xingyi Archaeological Site, one of China's most important historical excavation sites. There, a team of scientists analyzed the DNA of 127 ancient skeletons, aiming to reconstruct the genetic history of humans in ancient Southeast Asia. But unexpectedly, among the familiar genetic samples, a completely distinct variant appeared, a genetic signature unlike any human known, from Neanderthals to Denisovans. The individual carrying this unique DNA was none other than the woman called Xingyi_en. Xingyi_en is not just an individual from a distant past, she is a doorway into a new chapter of human history. DNA analysis revealed that her lineage belonged to an extremely ancient population, separated from the modern human evolutionary tree by at least 40,000 years. In other words, while our ancestors were migrating across the continents of Asia and Europe, this group lived in parallel, quietly, and almost entirely isolated from other populations for thousands of years. What particularly fascinated scientists is that this woman's DNA is connected to a so-called ghost population, a group of people who contributed to the genes of modern Tibetans. The term ghost population is used by geneticists to describe human groups that have never been found in fossil or skeletal form. They exist only through traces left in the DNA of later populations. In other words, they once lived, breathed, loved, and walked on Earth, but left no physical remains, only a genetic signature in their descendants. Yunnan Province, along with southwest China, has long been considered a crossroads of ancient cultures and populations. Yet this discovery shows that it was not just a meeting point, it was also home to a completely distinct branch of humanity, existing independently through tens of thousands of years of evolution. According to Dr. Xiaomei Fu, one of the project's lead researchers, this lineage represents a deeply diverged branch of humans. They split from the Homo sapiens lineage very early, existing as a parallel version of modern humans. If Neanderthals in Europe and Denisovans in Siberia are distant relatives we already know, then the Xingyi people are the mysterious cousins of Asia, living among the majestic mountains and forests of ancient China. Interestingly, their genes still persist in modern humans, especially in Tibetans, who exhibit extraordinary adaptation to high altitudes and thin air in the Himalayas. It is possible that this ghost human population passed on valuable genetic traits, enabling survival in environments where ordinary humans could not thrive. Therefore, the discovery in Yunnan is not just an archaeological story. It is a journey tracing the origins of humanity, opening an entirely new chapter in evolutionary history. It makes us wonder, how many other ghost populations are still buried deep beneath the earth, and how many lost human cousins remain undiscovered? The fully preserved mummy of a man on a yacht. On February 26, 2016, the waters of Mindanao, Philippines were calm, the sky clear, and the sun casting a warm golden light. What seemed like a perfect morning for a fishing trip for 23-year-old Christopher Rivas would instead mark the beginning of one of the most chilling discoveries in modern maritime history. While his boat drifted with his friends about 37 miles from shore, they suddenly came across a small yacht, painted white, decayed, and adrift in the open sea. Its name, faintly engraved on the hull, was Sayo, a name both strange and haunting. At first glance, everyone assumed it was just a ghost ship, abandoned, with its mast collapsed and part of the hull already submerged. But when Rivas and his team bravely stepped aboard, they were met with a horrifying sight. On the captain's chair sat a man, motionless, his body desiccated, skin tightly clinging to bones like a wax figure. He was nearly naked, sitting upright, with eyes that seemed still to gaze across the vast ocean. They immediately reported the discovery to the authorities. Through investigation and documents found in the yacht's cabin, police identified the mummified man as German sailor Manfred Fritz Bajorat. Autopsy revealed that the 59-year-old had died of a heart attack, and remarkably, his body had remained fully preserved despite floating at sea for at least a week. Forensic experts provided an explanation. The harsh maritime environment, hot air, high salinity, and strong winds had naturally mummified his body. According to Professor Peter Venezis, these conditions caused rapid dehydration, leaving the body dried and virtually unchanged in just a few weeks. Thus, in the vast ocean, Manfred Fritz Bajorat became a natural mummy, a solitary sailor eternally bound to his yacht. Yet the question that puzzled the world remained. How did a German man end up drifting alone in Philippine waters? The answer was found in the cabin, among photos and documents. There were pictures with his wife and daughter, letters, and notes full of longing. Police discovered that his wife had passed away from cancer in 2010, a devastating loss that changed his life completely. His daughter, Nina, who was then the captain of a cargo ship, recounted that 2 years after her mother's death, her father decided to abandon land entirely, choosing to live adrift at sea, alone, with no destination. He no longer wanted the cold of Germany, but sought the warm tropical waters, drifting among sun and wind, finding a peace that the land could not offer. For him, the ocean was both refuge and final home. Perhaps when his heart stopped beating, he was still gazing at the sea, listening to the waves, and it was that very sea that held him forever. The story of the mummy man on the yacht soon spread worldwide, sending chills but also evoking sympathy. A man who spent his life connected to the ocean ultimately died at sea, aboard the yacht he loved most. In the endless expanse of water, his body dried in a seated position, as if still steering toward the final journey of his life. No one knows how many waters he crossed or storms he faced, but one thing is certain. Manfred Fritz Bajorat chose an ending that only someone truly belonging to the sea could understand. Resting among the waves, forever drifting toward the horizon. 44,000-year-old infant remains reveal the mystery of a hybrid child between two human species. In the world of archaeology, some discoveries leave us utterly stunned, challenging everything humanity thought it knew. This time, it was a tiny bone from an infant, found in a cave about 124 miles from Paris, France, that made scientists around the world ask, could this be evidence of a hybrid child between two human species? The story begins in Grotta du Ren, located in Arcy-sur-Cure, once home to Neanderthals between 44,500 and 41,000 years ago. The site was already famous among archaeologists for its rich artifacts and remains of Neanderthals, the closest relatives of modern humans. But when a team led by Professor Bruno Moret from the University of Bordeaux conducted deeper excavations, they unexpectedly uncovered a small, nearly unrecognizable fragment of bone, seemingly belonging to a newborn. At first glance, the fragment showed some resemblance to Neanderthals. However, detailed analyses revealed otherwise. It did not fully belong to Neanderthals, nor was it entirely like modern humans, Homo sapiens. It was a creature standing between two worlds, familiar yet strange, leaving scientists puzzled. Ancient DNA analysis showed that the infant mostly carried traits of Homo sapiens, but still retained genetic traces from an older human species. In other words, this was a hybrid child between modern humans and Neanderthals, a vivid testament that the two species once coexisted, loved, reproduced, and even shared aspects of culture. Over 40,000 years ago, in the icy mountains of Europe, robust Neanderthals lived alongside the agile, graceful Homo sapiens. They hunted, crafted tools, and may even have shared fires and meals together. Romantic and familial interactions between the two species likely occurred. The infant discovered in Grotta du Ren stands as proof of this interaction, a symbol of the blending of two distinct human branches. Scientists now suggest that Neanderthals were not entirely extinct, as previously believed. A part of them lives on in every modern human. Genetic studies show that present-day Europeans carry about 2% Neanderthal DNA, while Asians also bear traces of Denisovans, another ancient human branch. In other words, each of us carries the blood of the ancients, indelible marks of our shared past. The discovery at Grotta do Ren has ignited heated debates among scientists and forced us to revisit one of humanity's biggest questions. Why did Neanderthals, a strong, adaptable species, disappear while Homo sapiens thrived to become Earth's dominant species? Was it because they were weaker, or because they merged with us, blending away through complex interbreeding? The infant in that cave, represented by just a tiny fragment of bone, opens an entirely new chapter in the story of evolution. It is a reminder that human history is not solely the story of Homo sapiens, but a vast mosaic, where every strand of DNA and fossil fragment contributes to a tale of tens of thousands of years of survival, interaction, and intermixing. And perhaps in other deep, unexplored caves, more evidence awaits, other hybrid children, missing links in our evolutionary journey. Quite possibly, it is this hybrid blood that shaped modern humans, intelligent, adaptable, and forever driven to uncover the origins of our own existence. The 354-layer garments of the female owner of an ancient Chinese tomb. In the world of archaeology, excavating human remains is hardly anything new. It's often considered routine work. Yet a tomb discovered in Fujian province, China, left the entire archaeological team exclaiming, "We're exhausted." Not because they were scared or haunted, but because they had just gone through one of the most elaborate and unusual mummification cases ever recorded in the country. The story began one October afternoon in 1974, when a high school teacher, sweating profusely, rushed to the provincial museum to report that the school had just unearthed an ancient tomb right under the playground during renovations. The news immediately mobilized the archaeologists. At first, they were disappointed to find that part of the tomb had been looted. Only a bronze mirror and a small white porcelain lamp remained. However, when they moved to the tomb chamber on the right, which remained completely intact and untouched, everything suddenly changed. An inscribed stone tablet revealed that this was the resting place of Huang Sheng, the primary wife of Zhao Yujun, the 11th generation grandson of Emperor Taizu of Song, Zhao Kuangyin. Huang Sheng was not only a noblewoman, but also the mother of a renowned scholar during the Southern Song dynasty. The discovery excited the archaeological team. An aristocratic tomb promised the potential of invaluable artifacts from a glorious period of Chinese history. Yet what truly stunned them was not the treasure itself, but the remarkable fashion sense of the deceased woman. Upon opening the coffin, the radiant gold of her jewelry from head to toe left the team breathless. But that was not even the pinnacle. When the examination began, the specialists had to work 2 to 3 times longer than usual just to remove the layers of clothing the noblewoman was wearing. In total, she wore 354 layers of garments, no exaggeration. These layers included everything from undergarments, sleepwear, and everyday clothing, to formal attire, and even seasonal garments for spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Astonishingly, all the garments were made from a wide variety of precious materials: silk, satin, gauze, brocade, taffeta, and more. The styles were equally diverse: sleeveless tops, bodices, skirts, pants, and even specialized items like waistliners, considered ancestors of modern sanitary pads. What was expected to take half a day ended up taking twice as long due to the meticulous process of undressing the layers. Yet the effort was far from wasted. Each layer of fabric served as a slice of history, allowing researchers to observe the extraordinary weaving techniques of the Southern Song dynasty, a craftsmanship rivaling that of earlier Han dynasty relics. The thinnest garment weighed just 0.59 ounces, almost imperceptible, demonstrating the artful mastery of silk processing and weaving. What seemed like a routine excavation transformed into a treasure trove of knowledge about the life, aesthetics, and traditional attire of noblewomen in the Song dynasty. And while the team could hardly help exclaiming, "We're exhausted," during the process, this journey through time was undoubtedly worthwhile, every thread carrying the spirit of a lost civilization. The 1,000-year-old ancient forest beneath a river. Have you ever imagined that a primeval forest, once lush with foliage and teeming with life, could disappear for more than a millennium, only to unexpectedly re-emerge from beneath a frozen, eternal layer of ice? It may sound like the plot of a science fiction story, but this is actually happening in Alaska. Specifically, in the southern region of the Mendenhall Glacier, a glacial river covering more than 37 square miles and stretching across the frozen wilderness, the first signs of an ancient forest have slowly begun to surface. And it's not just a few scattered pieces of wood. These are upright tree stumps, many still preserving their bark and root systems, a vivid testament that this was once a majestic forest before time and ice swallowed it whole. So what happened more than 1,000 years ago? Scientists from Southeast Alaska University believe that the glacier's slow but powerful expansion carried millions of tons of rocks and gravel, forming a sediment layer between 4 and 5 feet thick. This layer didn't just bury the forest, it acted like a natural armor, preserving the tree trunks in near-perfect condition. Then the ice advanced, completely covering the forest in a massive block of frozen history, locking this ecosystem in time until today. Over the past 50 years, scattered stumps and logs have occasionally emerged from the ice. However, in recent years, the glacier's accelerated melting has revealed large numbers of ancient trees with increasing density. Even more astonishing, many of them remain standing upright, just as they did when alive, creating a scene both awe-inspiring and eerie, as if one were witnessing time running backward. Professor Kathy Connor, a geographer leading the research team, explained that discovering upright trees is extremely valuable. It not only allows for precise dating, but also opens the door to understanding the ancient ecosystem of the area. Her team plans to return to Mendenhall to excavate additional sediment layers, collect conifer samples, and determine the forest's age using radiocarbon dating. Initial findings suggest this may be an ancient spruce forest, but additional samples are still being collected to confirm this. Early data on trunk diameters and morphology are also revealing a richer biodiversity than previously imagined. And this raises a profound question. How many ancient forests like this might be buried beneath glaciers around the world, just waiting to be uncovered? We are living in a moment when melting ice is gradually revealing long-hidden mysteries. More than a spectacular sight, this ancient forest is a treasure trove of data, offering humanity valuable insights into past climate, ecology, and Earth's history stretching back thousands of years. So, what do you think about this discovery? I'd love to hear your thoughts so we can discuss it further. The 5-year-old bride mummy in China. In China's thousands of years of history, the most common funerary practice was burial. The ancient people often placed various personal items in the tomb so that the deceased could enjoy them in the afterlife. For those of higher social status, the burial items could clearly reflect their rank and position in society. In 2003, during renovations at the residence of the famous calligrapher Wang Xiji in Shandong Province, a construction team discovered an ancient tomb. Inside the tomb were 2 very small coffins belonging to 2 children, one only 1 year old and the other 2 years old. In another section of the tomb, archaeologists also found the remains of a 5-year-old bride. The extremely young age of these 3 children shocked experts and raised serious questions. Why were they buried in an ancient tomb at such a young age? And why was a 5-year-old girl considered a bride? After consulting historical records, experts eventually uncovered the tragic story behind the tomb, revealing a sorrowful chapter of history. The tomb belonged to Emperor Sima Yu, the founding emperor of the Eastern Jin dynasty. It had been built for his beloved son, Sima Huan, and his grandson, Sima Onguo. According to the Book of Jin, one of the 24 official Chinese historical texts compiled in 648 by Fang Xuanling and Li Yanshu under Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty. Although Sima Yu dearly loved his son Sima Huan, the boy suffered from chronic illness from birth. Hoping to strengthen his son, Sima Yu decided to grant him the title of prince. Tragically, on the very day of the ceremony, Sima Huan's illness worsened, and he died. Not long after, Sima Yu's grandson, Sima Onguo, also passed away at a young age. For Sima Yu, the death of his son was a devastating blow. In response, he held a posthumous wedding, a ceremony in which a living bride is ritually married to a deceased groom and had the bride buried alive, so that his son could be happy in the afterlife. This young bride was the 5-year-old girl whose remains were discovered by modern archaeologists. In ancient society, when a husband died, it was customary for his wife to be buried with him. But because Sima Huan died as a child, his father chose a 5-year-old girl to serve as his posthumous bride. Although the tomb of Sima Huan is an invaluable archaeological discovery, it also serves as a stark testament to the suffering inherent in past societies, where human life could be considered secondary to ritual, symbolism, and power. This story is a reminder not only of the harsh realities of history, but also of humanity's progress in how we value human life and rights. It is chilling to realize that a girl so young, simply because of an emperor's decree, became a burial object, forever entombed alongside a child she never knew. What do you think about this? It is both heartbreaking and infuriating, isn't it? The 200-year-old shipwreck on a Florida beach. You've probably heard the saying, every wave that hits the shore carries not only the salt of the sea, but also stories buried for centuries. Here is one such story, a mysterious tale of a shipwreck over 200 years old, recently uncovered on Crescent Beach, Florida, after a violent tropical storm. The story began when Tropical Storm Eta, a powerful storm that swept through Florida in 2020, passed through, leaving behind severely eroded beaches. What seemed like just another natural consequence soon revealed something far more extraordinary. As layers of sand were washed away, history began to emerge. Decayed wooden planks and ancient structures started to appear, not driftwood or debris, but the hidden remains of a centuries-old ship, buried deep beneath the sands of Crescent Beach. As fate would have it, the first person to notice this unusual sight was a local resident named Mark O'Donoghue. On a typical morning stroll along his familiar beach, he spotted strange pieces of wood emerging from the sand and sensed that something was not ordinary. He immediately contacted Chuck Meade, director of the LAMP Maritime Archaeology Project, a team dedicated to studying and preserving Florida's maritime heritage. Without hesitation, the LAMP team arrived at the site. With excitement and extensive experience in maritime archaeology, they began carefully excavating, recording, and analyzing every wooden plank and rusted iron nail. According to Maida and his colleagues' initial assessment, these structures likely belonged to an American merchant ship from the early 19th century, a period when coastal trade in the United States was thriving. Did you know? Over 70% of historically documented shipwrecks in Florida involved coastal trading vessels, smaller ships that were the lifeblood of commerce, transporting goods from port to port along the Atlantic coastline. Among these, one vessel caught the LAMP team's special attention, the Caroline Eddy. According to CNN records, in late August 1880, the Caroline Eddy departed Fernandina Port, carrying primarily lumber on a voyage to New York. But fate was cruel. A mishap during the night caused the ship to founder, and it sank, its remnants lying hidden for nearly a century and a half, until now revealed once again to the sunlight. Meade explained, "Everything they found, from wooden planks and beams to structural iron fittings, matches remarkably well with American merchant ships from the early 1800s that we've studied before. While the process of precisely dating the ship is ongoing and painstaking, each clue slowly pieces together like an ancient puzzle." Tropical Storm Eta, which initially seemed like a destructive force, inadvertently opened a window to the past, transporting us back to America's maritime history. And in every layer of sand stripped away, one doesn't just see rotting wood and rusted nails. You can almost feel the breath of the sailors who once braved the waves, fought the storms, and ultimately rest forever beneath the ocean's depths. 6 pirate skeletons reveal secrets of the golden age of piracy on the high seas. When you think of pirate treasure, images of chests overflowing with gold, diamonds, and maps buried under the sand probably come to mind. But the real treasure is sometimes found where you least expect it. Inside the Whydah, the legendary pirate ship that sank over 300 years ago. Recently, scientists uncovered 6 human skeletons inside the ship, believed to belong to the ancient pirates who once terrorized the Atlantic Ocean. The story begins at the Whydah Pirate Museum in Massachusetts, which houses thousands of artifacts recovered from this legendary vessel. A research team led by explorer Barry Clifford announced a groundbreaking discovery: the preserved remains of actual pirates, almost intact inside the Whydah, a ship that epitomized the golden age of piracy from 1650 to 1730. Originally, the Whydah was not a warship, but a slave-trading vessel, built to transport goods and people from Africa to the Americas. Its fate changed when it was captured by Samuel Bellamy, nicknamed Black Sam, one of the most infamous pirates of the 18th century. Bellamy and his crew transformed the Whydah into a predatory vessel, attacking countless merchant ships along the Atlantic and striking fear into European traders. In 1717, however, while sailing off the coast of Cape Cod, the Whydah encountered a violent storm. Overloaded with treasure, the ship could not withstand the winds and waves. In an instant, all 146 crew members and the entire cargo sank into the cold sea. Only 2 men survived, while the rest were buried forever under sand and salt water. Over 2 centuries later, in 1984, Barry Clifford, a passionate underwater archaeologist, discovered the wreck, marking one of the most significant maritime finds in history. After years of research, his team recently uncovered 6 new skeletons, believed to be the pirates who sailed aboard the Whydah. Remarkably, thanks to modern DNA analysis, scientists hope to identify each skeleton and possibly determine if Samuel Bellamy himself is among them. Previous attempts to compare DNA with a known descendant of Bellamy yielded no matches, but these new samples have renewed hope. Perhaps after 300 years, the mystery of Captain Black Sam will finally be solved. Experts note that the exceptional preservation of the skeletons is due to the ship's unique conditions. Saltwater, sand, and materials within the ship's hold created a natural embalming environment, preventing the remains from fully decomposing over 3 centuries underwater. The Whydah Museum currently displays many artifacts recovered from the ship, including pirate guns, Spanish coins, fabric fragments, weapons, and personal items from the crew. Each object tells the story of a chaotic era, where outcasts ruled the seas with guns, blood, and dreams of freedom. So, if you ever visit Massachusetts, don't miss the Whydah Pirate Museum, home to living evidence of a glorious yet brutal era of the oceans. Standing before these 300-year-old skeletons, you may feel a direct connection to the past, experiencing a world long gone but not forgotten. 11 most terrifying recent archaeological discoveries that even top scientists can't explain. The self-mummifying bodies of Colombia. When you hear the word mummy, you probably think of ancient Egypt, where priests spent weeks, even months, performing sophisticated embalming rituals to preserve the dead, right? But would you believe that in a small Colombian town, people have discovered bodies that became mummified naturally, without any human intervention, yet have remained perfectly preserved for decades? This extraordinary phenomenon was documented in the cemetery of San Bernardo, a quiet mountain town where death seems to have defied every law of nature. The story began more than 20 years ago, when Eduardo Cifuentes, a local gravedigger, was refurbishing neglected tombs and suddenly noticed something strange. The bodies inside the coffins had not decomposed. Instead, their skin had turned brown, wrinkled, and gradually hardened, almost like stone. The sight shocked the entire town. Soon after, scientists from around the world flocked to San Bernardo in search of answers. Most of the bodies had been buried since the late 1950s, and what's most puzzling is that they were all placed inside sealed coffins, completely isolated from the soil, quickly ruling out theories involving soil composition or underground gases. Interestingly, a similar phenomenon once occurred in Guanajuato, Mexico, where scientists concluded that unique minerals and gases in the soil naturally dried and preserved the bodies. But San Bernardo is an entirely different story. There's no special soil, no unique air conditions, and no chemicals involved. So why did these bodies turn to stone? Local residents have plenty of folk explanations. Some believe the town's pure mountain water has special properties that help preserve the dead. Others say it's the healthy diet of the San Bernardo people, free of processed foods and rich in natural vegetables, that somehow made their bodies resistant to decay. There are even those who credit the phenomenon to 2 traditional local fruits: guadala, a green, spiky, vegetable-like fruit often boiled in soups, and balu, a giant bean-shaped fruit used for making cakes. It may sound like a village myth, but to this day, no scientific explanation has been confirmed. Some speculate that in 1957, when the cemetery was relocated from its original site to its current location, environmental conditions may have changed in a way that unintentionally preserved the bodies. Whatever the cause, the self-mummifying phenomenon of San Bernardo has baffled scientists for decades. After this shocking discovery, local authorities built a small museum behind the cemetery, where the 8 best-preserved bodies are displayed in glass cases on concrete pedestals. Each year, thousands of tourists visit to witness this eerie miracle with their own eyes. However, not everyone in town approves. Some residents strongly oppose the display, arguing that showcasing the deceased to attract tourists is disrespectful to their souls. You know, the world has seen stone-like bodies before, like those of Pompeii, Italy, after Mount Vesuvius erupted in AD 79, where victims were encased by scorching ash and lava, frozen in time. But San Bernardo's mystery is entirely different. No fire, no ash, only the stillness of the earth and the quiet passage of time. Today, San Bernardo stands as a one-of-a-kind destination in Colombia, a place where death carries no stench of decay, but instead an uncanny sense of peace. Beneath the thick glass, those silent faces remain, as if still telling their stories of life, death, and a mystery that science has yet to solve. The 194,000-square-foot ancient tomb of the Zhuge clan's honored scholar, hidden beneath a bottomless pond in China. In a peaceful countryside village called Tangdun, located in Changzhou City, Jiangsu Province, China, locals have passed down a strange legend for generations about a mysterious pond known as Botang Pond. The name sounds simple enough, doesn't it? But behind that calm, mirror-like surface lies a story so chilling that anyone who hears it can't help but get goosebumps. According to Mr. Zhang Renliang, a local elder now in his 70s, he has known about the pond's mystery since childhood. His grandfather used to tell him about a small mound that rises from the center of the pond. And the strange thing is, even during the hottest droughts, when nearby rivers and lakes completely dry up, Botang Pond never runs out of water. The mound remains standing tall in the middle, as if guarding an ancient secret that has lasted for 1,000 years. For decades, no one had ever seen the pond go dry. Villagers could only speculate. Perhaps there was an underground spring feeding it, or maybe an ancient tomb buried beneath. It wasn't until 1980, when a construction project for the Beigang brick and tile factory began, that people decided to drain the pond and find out the truth. That moment marked one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries in all of Jiangsu Province. As the mud at the bottom was cleared away, pieces of ancient artifacts began to emerge: porcelain fragments, old coins, and finely crafted relics bearing the style of the Three Kingdoms period. Startled, villagers immediately reported it to the local authorities, who dispatched a professional archaeological team to investigate. Using modern equipment, the team drained the pond completely, and what they found left everyone stunned. A jade plaque engraved with 4 Chinese characters, Zhuge Ziyu. That name shocked the entire excavation team. You see, Ziyu was the courtesy name of Zhuge Jin, the elder brother of the legendary Zhuge Liang, the brilliant military strategist whose name has become synonymous with wisdom in Chinese history. It turned out that the mound in the middle of Botang Pond was, in fact, the tomb of Zhuge Jin himself, who once held the titles of Grand General, Left Protector, and Governor of Yu Province under the Eastern Wu dynasty. The tomb spans an astonishing roughly 194,000 square feet, rising between 13 and 16 feet high and lying just about 3 feet below the water's surface. During excavation, archaeologists also unearthed simple yet elegant burial items such as jade clasps, jade figurines, bronze mirrors, ancient coins, and pottery, all reflecting Zhuge Jin's modest and upright character. Before his death, he reportedly instructed his family to bury him simply, wrapped in plain cloth, without extravagance or display. Although in the historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Zhuge Jin appears only briefly compared to his famous younger brother Zhuge Liang, historical records portray him as a virtuous and talented statesman deeply trusted by Sun Quan, ruler of Eastern Wu. He was one of the key figures who helped strengthen Wu's power during the turbulent Three Kingdoms era. Zhuge Jin passed away in AD 241 at the age of 68. His tomb lay silently beneath the waters of Botang Pond for nearly 2,000 years, until it was rediscovered by chance in the late 20th century. After the nearby brick factory was dismantled, the tomb came under the care of the Changzhou Shenma Pharmaceutical Company. In 2002, the local government restored the site with an investment of over 100,000 yuan, approximately $12,000. Yet what continues to intrigue locals even more is the belief that several other tombs of the Zhuge clan remain buried in the surrounding area, graves belonging to other distinguished members of this illustrious family that have not yet been excavated. The skeleton of the Iranian girl with an alien-like skull. Along the shores of the Persian Gulf in Iran, where time seems to stand still between sand and wind, archaeologists made a discovery that left both scientists and people around the world stunned. Buried deep beneath the ancient soil of the Chega Sofla cemetery, researchers uncovered the remains of a young woman, barely 20 years old. But what shocked everyone wasn't just the fact that the skeleton was thousands of years old. It was the strange, elongated shape of her skull, unusually oval, narrow, and stretched. So much so that at first glance, it looked eerily similar to the alien heads we often see in science fiction films. From that very moment, a flood of questions arose. Who was this girl? Why did her skull look so unusual? Could this be evidence of contact with an extraterrestrial civilization? Or was it simply a forgotten story buried by time? The skeleton was discovered as part of the Zoreh Prehistoric Project, a long-term archaeological excavation in Iran that has been ongoing for over a decade, aimed at reconstructing a civilization that thrived more than 6,200 years ago during the Bronze Age. And there, in the silent depths of this ancient cemetery, the girl's remains stood as a silent witness to both the glory and tragedy of a long-lost past. Under the direction of archaeologist Mahdi Alirezazadeh and his team from Tarbiyat Madaris University, each bone was carefully analyzed. Eventually, they discovered that the skull's unusual shape was not caused by disease or natural deformity, but rather by an ancient cultural practice known as cranial deformation. It may sound strange, but this practice was once considered a standard of beauty in many ancient civilizations. From Central Asia to Europe and even South America, people once believed that a long, slender head symbolized beauty, intelligence, or noble status. So, from early childhood, the girl's head was tightly bound with cloth or wooden boards, gradually reshaping her skull over the years, turning it into a symbol of beauty in her society. But behind that ancient notion of beauty lies a chilling truth. Upon closer examination, experts noticed a deep fracture on her skull, the unmistakable sign of a strong blow from a blunt object. There was no evidence of bone healing, which meant the girl died instantly. Tragically, the very skull-shaping practice that made her head longer also made it more fragile, turning what might have been a minor strike into a fatal injury. This led to a haunting question that has troubled researchers ever since. Could it be that the very beauty standards she followed, once seen as a mark of prestige, were ultimately the cause of her death? There's no concrete evidence proving it was murder, but neither is there proof it was an accident. And so, this young woman became a tragic symbol of the price of beauty in human history. Yet, her story did not end with her death. Her skeleton opened a doorway into the past, leading scientists to uncover some of the oldest brick tombs ever found. A 1,000-year-old Maya temple reveals the true identity of the powerful serpent god hidden deep in the Yucatan jungle. Deep within the dense jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, once the very heart of the mighty Maya civilization, archaeologists have unveiled a discovery that has left the entire world stunned. A 1,000-year-old ancient temple believed to be dedicated to the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, one of the supreme deities of the ancient Maya. The discovery was made at El Tigre, an archaeological site hidden amid untamed nature. Beneath layers of earth and tangled roots lay a massive structure, built sometime between AD 1000 and 1200, right during the final flourishing era of the Maya civilization, just before its mysterious decline. According to archaeologists, the temple has a unique two-tier circular design with a flat roof, completely different from the square-based pyramids commonly seen in Maya architecture. This distinctive style has led experts to believe the structure was no ordinary building, but rather a sanctuary dedicated specifically to Kukulkan, the serpent god who represented creation, wisdom, and cosmic power. For the Maya, Kukulkan embodied the connection between heaven and earth, between humans and the supernatural realm. Even more fascinating, Mexican authorities suspect that this temple might be the very one recorded in ancient documents by Don Pablo Pax-Bolon, a Maya leader from the late 16th century. In his writings, Pax-Bolon described 4 sacred temples, each devoted to one of the main Maya gods, including Kukulkan. Yet for hundreds of years, no one knew where these temples were located. Now, it's possible that one of those 4 legendary sanctuaries has finally been found. Moreover, similar circular structures have previously been unearthed at other famous Maya sites, such as Edzna, Bacan, Uxmal, and Chichen Itza, major centers of Maya civilization. According to experts, this circular architectural style appeared during the early post-classic period, AD 1000 to 1200, when the Maya civilization began expanding its interactions with other regions of Mesoamerica, particularly central Mexico, Oaxaca, and the Gulf Coast. This suggests that the Maya were not as isolated as many once believed. Instead, they maintained broad cultural, religious, and trade connections, evident in their temple designs, sculptural styles, and sacred rituals. For this reason, the Kukulkan Temple at El Tigre is not merely an archaeological monument. It is a key that helps modern humanity better understand the interconnectedness of ancient American civilizations. Interestingly, the Yucatan Peninsula was also the final refuge of the Maya people before their great civilization mysteriously faded from history. Even today, the reason for the Maya Empire's collapse remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries. Some scholars attribute it to climate change or warfare, while others believe it resulted from religious turmoil and internal crisis. Perhaps this newly uncovered temple could provide vital clues that may help unravel that age-old mystery. What makes this discovery even more astonishing is how it was found, entirely by accident during the construction of the massive Tren Maya Train project, a more than 1,000-mile-long railway being built by the Mexican government to connect archaeological sites across the Yucatan Peninsula. The 2,000-year-old Blue Room Shrine. You are stepping into a city frozen in time, a place where every moment has been preserved for nearly 2,000 years, not in paintings or history books, but within each stone, each wall, and every trace of ash. This is Pompeii, the ancient Roman city tragically buried under volcanic ash after the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. Yet, even though time seemed to have stopped there, the secrets hidden within this city continue to surface. Recently, archaeologists from the Archaeological Park of Pompeii, led by Dr. Gabriel Zuchtriegel, uncovered an ancient chapel only about 86 square in size, but it holds countless sacred stories tied to the spiritual and religious life of the ancient Romans. The chapel is located in the central district of the ancient city, within a large architectural complex that was once part of a domus, a luxurious Roman villa. From the moment the first sections of its walls emerged, experts knew this was no ordinary room. The entire wall surface was painted in a vivid shade of blue, an extremely rare color in Pompeian fresco art. This hue was typically reserved for special spaces with ceremonial or sacred purposes, signifying the room's importance and sanctity. What drew the most attention were the frescoes painted directly onto the blue walls. On both sides were depictions of goddesses representing the Horae, the 4 seasons, a powerful symbol of nature's eternal cycle and the passage of time. At the center were symbolic scenes related to agriculture and shepherding, represented through a plow and a pedum, a short curved staff often used by hunters and shepherds. These images were far more than decorative. They reflected the deep connection between humans, the land, and the gods in ancient Roman culture. But this chamber was not only an artistic masterpiece, it was also a sacred space used for religious rituals. Archaeologists discovered 15 wine jars used in ceremonial offerings, along with a set of bronze vessels consisting of 2 jugs and 2 oil lamps, carefully arranged in an area identified as the sacred storage room. An especially intriguing detail was a pile of empty oyster shells found at the doorway. Researchers believe these shells were ground into powder and mixed with plaster and mortar during restoration works in antiquity. A small but fascinating clue revealing the unique construction methods of ancient Roman builders. The context of this discovery adds even more depth. The chapel is situated in the southern section of an insula, a large city block containing multiple functional spaces. Around this area, excavations have also uncovered public baths, a grand black reception hall adorned with wall paintings facing an inner courtyard, and a staircase leading to an upper floor, suggesting that this was once a luxurious complex belonging to Pompeii's wealthy and powerful elite. This excavation is part of a long-term conservation project aimed at preserving and reinforcing Pompeii's archaeological structures, a site that currently includes over 13,000 rooms across 1,070 residential units, in addition to temples, sanctuaries, and public spaces. Discoveries like this not only enrich our understanding of ancient Roman religious life, but also aid in improving hydrogeological management, protecting the site from modern threats like erosion and structural collapse. Pompeii was once a vibrant metropolis, with paved streets, grand squares, theaters, and opulent residences for the nobility. Yet all of it was entombed in a single, fateful night today. With every stroke of an archaeologist's trowel, the past is slowly being awakened, and rooms like this newly uncovered Blue Room Shrine seem to whisper to us the ancient prayers, beliefs, and eternal hopes for fertility, life, and the endless cycle of time. If I told you that Pompeii is not merely a city buried by a volcano, but rather a sacred vessel preserving the soul of a once great civilization, a place where the past still breathes through every wall, every hue of paint, and even every silent fragment of oyster shell lying at history's threshold, it wouldn't be an exaggeration at all, would it? The 2,000-year-old underground sewer system that saved Jewish lives during the Roman massacre beneath Jerusalem. Right beneath the ancient city of Jerusalem, where every stone bears the weight of faith and history, Israeli archaeologists have announced a discovery that has shaken the world of archaeology: a 2,000-year-old underground sewer system believed to have been used by Jewish residents to escape Roman forces during the bloody destruction of the city in AD 70. The finding was officially revealed on September 9, 2024, in the City of David Archaeological Area, near the village of Silwan, on the outskirts of modern-day East Jerusalem. Beneath layers of soil accumulated over millennia, researchers uncovered a section of the ancient drainage channel about 230 feet long, remarkably well preserved after all these centuries. According to Eli Shukran, a member of the Israel Antiquities Authority and one of the excavation's lead archaeologists, the sewer system runs from Silwan to an area just about 33 feet west of the Wailing Wall, also known as the Western Wall, the only surviving remnant of the Second Temple, the holiest site in Judaism, destroyed by Roman troops during their siege of Jerusalem nearly 2,000 years ago. And astonishingly, beneath that sacred ground, an underground network of ancient stone tunnels now tells another story, a story of survival amid despair. The team described the structure as being built entirely of massive stone blocks, with a smoothly paved floor standing about 10 feet high and 3 feet wide, large enough for an adult to move comfortably inside. Its sturdy construction and sophisticated design suggest that it was more than just a drainage system. It likely had another critical function. When Roman forces invaded Jerusalem, the Jewish people used this very system as a hidden escape route, sheltering underground to avoid the massacres raging above. In the writings of the historian Josephus Flavius, an eyewitness to those events, he described how Jews fled through tunnels and sewers beneath the city, living in darkness as they waited for a chance to escape their pursuers. Now, after 2 millennia, those ancient accounts have been proven true. Beyond its engineering significance, this discovery opens a window into one of the most tragic chapters of Jerusalem's past, a city that was besieged, burned, and saw tens of thousands of lives lost. During excavation, archaeologists also found ancient artifacts such as pottery shards, coins, and everyday household items, providing vivid evidence that this place once served as a temporary refuge for Jewish civilians desperately clinging to life during the siege. Another remarkable detail is that the sewer runs directly beneath the city's ancient main street, which once connected Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. This fact highlights the advanced engineering and urban planning of the ancient Jewish civilization, far beyond what most would imagine for that era. What may appear to be just a simple stone tunnel actually conceals a heroic and tragic chapter in human history. Today, as sunlight once again touches these damp stones after 2,000 years, we see not just an ancient engineering marvel, but we can almost feel the breath of those who once hid here, terrified yet steadfast in their faith and hope for deliverance. This discovery is not only a significant contribution to our understanding of ancient underground architecture, but also a powerful reminder of humanity's resilience in the face of war and the unyielding will to survive. the 5,000-year-old floating city of Mesopotamia. Amid the ancient land between the two great rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, a region often called the cradle of human civilization, archaeologists have uncovered an astonishing find: a massive 5,000-year-old city buried beneath layers of time, the legendary city of Lagash, one of the most powerful centers of ancient Mesopotamia. What left scientists utterly speechless was the revelation that this city was built as a floating complex, designed with an intricate network of artificial islands, temples, and canals, showcasing a level of urban planning that far exceeded what anyone thought possible for the ancient world. This groundbreaking discovery was made by a research team led by archaeologist Emily Hammer from the University of Pennsylvania. Initially, her team relied only on remote sensing radar data to analyze the swampy areas of southern Iraq. However, the strange signals they detected from above began to reveal a mysterious landscape, traces of what appeared to be a forgotten metropolis. Unable to resist their curiosity, the team sent a drone to survey the area in detail. And the moment the first images were transmitted back, they were stunned. Lagash was real, and its scale far surpassed all expectations. Aerial photographs revealed a breathtaking architectural maze, featuring 4 main islands surrounded by dozens of smaller ones, all connected by canals and submerged walkways. Ancient residents of Lagash traveled within the city by boat, much like people in Venice, Italy, though Lagash predates Venice by several millennia. The entire city sprawled across an area of roughly 740 acres, about 1.15 square miles, equivalent to about 1/3 the size of modern Chicago, an almost unthinkable feat for the Neolithic era. Until now, scholars had believed that early Mesopotamian cities were merely small scattered settlements. But this discovery has shattered that long-held belief. Archaeological evidence shows that thousands of years ago, the people of Mesopotamia already possessed an advanced sense of urban design, with separate zones for waterways, temples, residential quarters, and administrative centers. This proves that they were not just humble farmers along the rivers. They were visionary architects and city planners, capable of transforming marshy wetlands into a thriving island metropolis of astonishing sophistication and beauty. According to ancient records, Lagash was once among the greatest power centers of Mesopotamia, home to some of the first kings in human history and the birthplace of early systems of law and administration. Yet over time, due to geological shifts, wars, and changes in river courses, the city was gradually submerged and forgotten, leaving behind only faint inscriptions on ancient clay tablets. Now, thanks to modern radar technology and aerial imaging, Lagash has risen once more from the depths of the earth, unveiling secrets that have been buried for thousands of years. According to Hammer's team, every drone photograph acts like a puzzle piece, slowly recreating the image of a once glorious lost city, a place where people lived, worked, worshipped, and laid the foundation for humanity's first civilization. The soul-devouring shipwreck beneath the melting Arctic ice. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to find yourself lost amid an endless sea of ice, where the wind howls like the cries of wandering spirits and hunger can turn men into monsters? If not, then join me as we dive deep into one of the most chilling true stories in the history of exploration, the story of the HMS Erebus, a ship lying silent and frozen off King William Island in the Canadian Arctic, surrounded by shattered human bones scattered along the desolate shore. These bones revealed a horrifying secret: cannibalism among sailors in the mid-19th century. Let's turn back time to 1845, when 2 ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, under the command of Sir John Franklin, set sail from England to search for the Northwest Passage, the legendary maritime route believed to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the treacherous Arctic. But after their last sighting near Greenland, both ships, along with 129 crew members, vanished without a trace, sparking decades of relentless searches and speculation. In 1859, nearly 15 years later, the first 2 skeletons were discovered on the shores of King William Island. They were found sitting upright, as if waiting for something, perhaps hope itself, until their final breath. That was only the beginning of a series of grisly discoveries. A decade later, another skeleton surfaced. Then, in 1879, 1932, 1987, and 1992, searchers uncovered dozens more human remains. Stark white bones lying exposed in the snow, unburied, without gravestones. silent witnesses to an unspeakable tragedy. Some of these bones bore rodent bite marks, common on bodies left outdoors, but what truly horrified researchers were the precise cut marks found on many, unmistakable evidence of flesh removal, especially around the wrists, where muscles are easiest to strip away in moments of starvation. A team of Canadian scientists later confirmed that these remains belonged to the crew of HMS Erebus, which had become trapped in thick sea ice near King William Island around 1846, roughly 1,200 nautical miles, about 1,380 miles, northwest of Toronto, in a place where life seems impossible to sustain. John Geiger, one of the project leaders and president of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, once described the haunting scene. "The ship is almost perfectly preserved. It feels as though we're walking on the surface of the moon." That eerie landscape, along with the archaeological evidence, has opened one of the darkest chapters in maritime history: the complete collapse of a once proud expedition under the crushing weight of nature and human desperation. According to a written note found on a frozen cairn near the wreck, after 2 years trapped in ice, only 105 men remained alive, and Captain John Franklin was already dead. The survivors made a desperate choice: to abandon the ship in hopes of finding rescue, or at least escaping the slow agony of waiting for death. They wandered across the frozen wasteland, exhausted and starving. Ironically, the canned food they carried, a cutting-edge technology at the time, may have been their undoing. The lead solder used to seal the cans likely caused lead poisoning, deteriorating their health and sanity at a terrifying pace. Accounts from Inuit witnesses, recorded in the 19th century, told of men dying from disease and cold, and, disturbingly, of signs of cannibalism among the survivors. The evidence matched. The precise knife cuts on bones, especially near the wrists, left little doubt that some crew members, pushed to the edge of madness by hunger, had resorted to consuming the flesh of their fallen comrades to stay alive. It was one of those rare and terrible moments in history when human morality was tested by the brutal indifference of nature. Although parts of the HMS Erebus have since been located and recovered, the body of Captain Franklin remains missing. Some believe he was buried at sea, others think he lies entombed somewhere along the icy shore, or perhaps still rests deep within the frozen wreck itself. One thing, however, is certain. The discovery of the Erebus has become a key that unlocks a 180-year-old mystery, a story where courage, ambition, and despair collided, culminating in a tragedy forever known as the Arctic cannibalism. More than just an archaeological finding, this haunting story stands as a mirror reflecting humanity's fragility before nature, and a lesson in the price of pride and the unyielding desire to conquer the unknown. The 2,000-year-old supercomputer that stunned the world, from ancient Greece. If you think technology has only started booming in the past few hundred years, then the story I'm about to tell you will surely leave your jaw on the floor. In the Aegean Sea, near the beautiful Greek island of Antikythera, divers in 1902 accidentally uncovered one of the most extraordinary inventions in human history, the Antikythera mechanism, often called the first supercomputer of the ancient world. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet this device dates back to somewhere between 270 BCE, over 2,000 years ago. While most of humanity at that time still relied on lunar calendars or simple manual methods to track time, the Greeks had crafted a mechanism so intricate that modern scientists still sweat to understand its operation. When first recovered from the shipwreck, the Antikythera mechanism looked like nothing more than a rusted lump of metal. But as experts painstakingly restored it, they discovered a system of up to 30 interlocking bronze gears, each fitting together like the precise notes of a mechanical symphony. Initial reconstructions suggest that the intact device may have contained up to 37 gears, each performing a unique calculation, collectively forming a remarkably accurate mechanism. Here's the most astonishing part. The Antikythera mechanism was far more than a clock or calendar. It could model the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, something that would take thousands of years before humanity could replicate with modern technology. It could calculate leap years, simulate the metonic and calippic cycles, highly complex astronomical patterns, and even predict solar and lunar eclipses, phenomena that ancient people often considered divine omens. In other words, with this supercomputer in hand, the ancient Greeks essentially held a key to understanding the cosmos. Fascinatingly, there is a small aperture on its surface that tracks the phases of the moon, from full to new, waxing and waning. This shows that the Greeks were not only curious about time, but also sought a deep understanding of the universe, blending science, philosophy, and spirituality, a perfect harmony of intellect and the human drive to explore. Yet even today, the Antikythera mechanism remains only partially decoded. Experts from around the world have used X-rays, 3D scans, and even artificial intelligence to reconstruct and understand its inner workings, but no one has yet been able to replicate it fully. Perhaps that is what makes it so mesmerizing, a small device carrying the vast intelligence of a civilization that once touched the boundaries of the future. So, consider this. Does the Antikythera mechanism prove that the ancient Greeks possessed technology far ahead of their time, or was it simply the result of the ingenuity of a few mechanical geniuses? And imagine, if the mechanism had never sunk to the seabed, how differently might the history of science have unfolded? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. The 5,000-year-old Sleeping Beauty mummy buried beneath Peru. Deep beneath the windswept coastal lands of Aspero, in western Peru, where the salty sea air mingles with golden sands that have preserved the passage of time, archaeologists stumbled upon an astonishing discovery: the nearly perfectly preserved body of an ancient woman with skin, hair, and even fingernails intact. After 5,000 years, scientists were so awed that they dubbed her the legendary Sleeping Beauty. This woman is believed to have held high status in the Corral Soup civilization, the oldest known civilization in the Americas, flourishing between 3,500 and 1,800 BCE, nearly contemporaneous with the Egyptian pyramids. Her story begins at Huaca de los Ídolos, a sacred temple within Aspero's ceremonial complex, once considered the cultural and spiritual hub of the region. The excavation was led by Dr. Ruth Shady Solis, director of the Corral Archaeological Site, and funded by the Peruvian Ministry of Culture. As the first layers of soil were removed, the team uncovered not just a tomb, but a gateway into the memory of an entire civilization. The woman's body was wrapped in multiple layers of soft cotton cloth, exquisitely woven mats, and, remarkably, fabric made from long-tailed parrot feathers, a vivid tropical bird. This alone reveals the Corral people's mastery of textile weaving and feather artistry. What truly stunned researchers was the elaborate burial ritual. Alongside the mummy were numerous precious artifacts: finely crafted headpieces, hand-woven reed baskets, intricately carved bone pins, shells, and toucan beaks inlaid with tiny beads, all sourced from the distant Amazon rainforest. The tomb also contained weaving tools, fishing nets, and over 30 sweet potatoes, a staple crop of the Corral agricultural system. Each item was carefully arranged, as if telling pieces of her life story. Above the body, archaeologists found bird-shaped ceramic vessels and a basket placed neatly on a totora reed mat, crafted from a plant found only near Lake Titicaca. Every element reflected spiritual intent, suggesting that the Corral people believed life did not end with death, but continued in another realm. Peruvian authorities speculate that this woman may have been a female leader or powerful religious figure, wielding spiritual influence within her community. This discovery also strengthens the hypothesis that Corral society valued peace, knowledge, and the role of women over war, portraying women as a vital connection between humans and the cosmos. Today, multidisciplinary experts continue to study her DNA, skeletal remains, diet, and the origins of the tomb's artifacts. Each sample, every thread, and subtle trace on the bones may reveal who she was, how she lived, and why she was revered by the Corral people. So, what do you think? Was this 5,000-year-old woman merely a religious symbol, or could she be evidence that women in ancient times held unimaginable power? If given the chance, would you travel to Peru to witness the Sleeping Beauty with your own eyes? Personally, I would. It's a rare and extraordinary discovery that few in the world ever get to see. Pompeii victims' remains found clutching treasure in death. When we think of history's most catastrophic volcanic eruptions, few can forget the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, can we? At that time, Pompeii, a bustling Roman city on the slopes of Vesuvius, was suddenly transformed into an inferno. Lava and scorching ash rained down like a torrent, burying the city within hours. Amid this landscape of death, some stories are so heartbreaking that they leave the world in stunned silence. Recently, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a middle-aged woman clutching her treasure, curled on a bed, her final moment frozen in time for nearly 2 millennia. This discovery comes from excavations in Regio 9, part of Pompeii's ruins, led by Gabriel Zuchtriegel, director of the Pompeii Archaeological Park. Here, the team found not one, but 2 sets of human remains, revealing a tragic story from the city's final moments. The woman, aged roughly 35 to 45, was discovered in a fetal position on a decayed wooden bed. Beside her lay a young man, about 20 years old, crushed beneath a collapsed wall. Archaeologists named this area Room 33, where it appears the two had fled to escape the deadly lava flow. Because the room was free of pumice stone intrusion, researchers believe they temporarily evaded the lava, but were ultimately trapped when the adjacent room filled with hot stones and ash. Layers of volcanic dust, several centimeters thick, covered the floor, indicating that both may have succumbed to a pyroclastic surge, a deadly mix of superheated gas and volcanic debris moving at terrifying speeds. The destructive flow blew the wall down, instantly killing the young man. The woman, however, may have lived a few more minutes, lying on the bed in despair. A quiet but haunting death. What stunned the world most was what lay beside her. Surrounding the body were numerous gold, silver, and bronze coins, along with finely crafted jewelry, a pair of gold Croatelia earrings with pearls, producing a delicate clinking sound when moved, and an amulet necklace intended to protect her during childbirth. Nearby lay an iron key set, likely for a small chest placed by the bed. In those final moments, she had gathered her most valuable possessions, coins, gold, jewelry, perhaps hoping to escape or at least hold on to what mattered most. But fate offered no reprieve. The path to survival was blocked, and Room 33 became their eternal tomb. Nearly 2,000 years later, the layers of hardened ash have preserved every detail, from their body positions to the objects around them and even the room's lighting, bearing witness to Pompeii's final moments. Today, Pompeii is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, yet much of the city remains buried under meters of volcanic debris. Each excavation is a journey into time frozen, where every brick, artifact, and even the gaze of the deceased tells a story of fear, regret, and the human instinct for survival. Perhaps what makes the story of the woman clutching her treasure so haunting is the contrast between death and the desire to live. Even knowing escape was impossible, she held tight to her treasures, as if they were the last threads connecting her to life. Amid the ashes of Pompeii, that moment still echoes, reminding us that humans, though small against nature, fight to the very end for the chance to survive. 12 terrifying underwater archaeological discoveries. A 4,500-year-old ancient city swallowed by the sea. Have you ever imagined that beneath the shimmering blue waves off the coast of India lies a city even older than the Egyptian pyramids, resting quietly for thousands of years like a forgotten dream? It sounds like something you'd hear around a campfire, but archaeologists have actually discovered a massive ruined structure stretching more than 5.6 miles, submerged about 131 feet underwater near the Gulf of Cambay in western India. And what they found beneath those layers of sediment was enough to make any researcher's heart skip a beat. Right before their eyes stood a long defensive wall, about 318 feet in length and 95 feet wide, constructed in a style strikingly similar to the architecture of the ancient Greek Acropolis. This immediately raised a burning question among scholars. Could two civilizations separated by thousands of miles have somehow exchanged ideas in a way that modern history has yet to record? Just imagine it. Deep beneath calm ocean waters, a structure that feels unmistakably Greek suddenly appears. That alone is enough to give anyone chills, but the surprises didn't stop there. As experts dug deeper into the buried sediment, they uncovered enormous irrigation systems, one stretching nearly 0.5 miles, measuring about 39 feet wide and almost 26 feet high. Constructions of this scale suggest that the ancient people here had achieved an impressively advanced level of water management, something many other early civilizations had yet to reach. Next to the defensive wall was a square bath measuring roughly 131 by 131 feet, almost the size of a modern swimming pool. Just imagine, thousands of years ago, the residents of this city already had public structures that grand, you could say it was the peak of engineering of the ancient world. When scientists analyzed the geological layers around the site, they also discovered evidence that several major rivers once flowed from east to west across India before their courses shifted or collapsed. This led to a compelling theory. The city we're talking about may once have stood beside a bustling river mouth before being swallowed by the sea in a sudden natural event that no one could have foreseen. See, the ocean may seem peaceful, but sometimes it becomes the keeper of humanity's deepest secrets. Current evidence suggests this city may belong to the Indus culture, which existed around 2500 BCE, the same era as the Vedas and Upanishads. This culture flourished in Pakistan and Western India and is closely linked to what we now call the Harappan civilization, named after the first archaeological finds near the India-Pakistan border. And if you've heard of the ruined city of Lothal, one of the most famous Indus sites, the city we're discussing lies nearby, around the Gulf of Cambay, a region filled with countless secrets still waiting to be uncovered. A nearly intact, 1,600-year-old Roman shipwreck filled with a massive treasure. Did you know that just about 6.5 feet below the surface of the turquoise waters of Playa de Palma lies a treasure almost no one expected? A Roman merchant shipwreck that has remained still for more than 1,600 years, nearly perfectly preserved in its original form? Beneath what is now a bustling tourist beach in Majorca sits an ancient relic like a doorway into the world of the Romans, who once dominated the Mediterranean. And the most fascinating part? This incredible discovery didn't come from an archaeologist or a professional diver, but from a local resident named Felix Alarcón. One morning during his usual swim, he happened to notice strange wooden fragments sticking out of the seafloor. To most people, they would have looked like nothing more than pieces of rotting wood, not worth a second glance. But Felix's instincts told him something was waiting to be uncovered. Without hesitation, he reported it to the island's heritage authorities, and that decision led to a major underwater investigation, one that left the entire archaeological community stunned. When experts dove down, they discovered a ship about 39 feet long, resting calmly under a thick layer of sand, as if someone had gently covered it to preserve it for 1,000 years. And in truth, that sand is what saved the ship. According to Professor Enrique Garcia of the University of the Balearic Islands, the rapid burial prevented oxygen from reaching the wood, drastically slowing down biological decay. As a result, much of the hull, wooden deck, and main structural elements have kept their original shape, an incredibly rare condition for an ancient shipwreck. But what truly made the experts' eyes widen were the hundreds of amphorae, two-handled storage jars, still neatly arranged in the cargo hold, many of them sealed tight as if the sinking had never happened. Based on the amphorae types and the layout of the cargo, archaeologists believe the ship set sail from Cartagena, one of Rome's largest commercial ports in southern Spain. Inside the jars were likely olive oil, wine, and even garum, a fermented fish sauce so popular that the Romans traded it across the entire empire. A coin minted in Sicily, in modern-day Croatia, was also found beneath the mast, dating to around 320 AD. Though small, it became a crucial clue in determining when the ship made its final voyage. And that wasn't all. Beyond the amphorae and the coin, the team recovered 2 leather shoes in almost perfect condition, along with an oil lamp engraved with the image of the goddess Diana, symbol of the moon and the hunt. These seemingly simple objects reveal intimate details about the beliefs, clothing, and daily habits of Roman sailors as they traveled across the sea. Even more fascinating, many of the amphorae still bear markings indicating the manufacturer, type of goods, and even tax codes. Clear evidence of Rome's highly organized commercial system. According to researchers from the University of Cadiz, led by Professor Dario Bernal, the amphorae collection found here is one of the most complete and valuable ever uncovered in Spain. Just imagine it. Right beneath a beach where people sunbathe and swim every day lies a piece of history preserved almost perfectly since antiquity. Every jar, every plank of wood, every coin seems to retell the bustling trade routes of the Roman Empire, a world long gone but still echoing through each artifact. And who knows, beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, there may be more ships waiting, each carrying its own untold story. After all, the sea always keeps its secrets, patiently waiting for us to be curious enough to dive a little deeper. A stunning 900-year-old Crusader sword, found beneath the waters of Haifa Bay. Imagine diving into the deep blue waters of Haifa Bay in the Mediterranean, just over 10 feet below the surface, when suddenly a strange object glints beneath the sand. That was the exact moment when Shlomi Katzin, an amateur diver, accidentally touched a hidden treasure that had been lying undisturbed for nearly a millennium. It wasn't a rock or a random piece of pottery, but a sword about 3.3 feet long, preserved almost perfectly despite being submerged for more than 900 years. Do you know what makes this discovery so rare? According to Kobi Sharvit, an archaeologist with the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, the sword had been buried under a thick layer of sand and covered with marine life, making it nearly invisible to the human eye. Only a sudden shift in the sea currents moved the sand enough to reveal the blade, as if the ocean itself was quietly sending a message from the past. Archaeologists believe this sword once belonged to a Crusader knight. If you don't know, the Crusades were a series of religious wars from 1095 to 1291, during which knights from all across Western Europe, under the call of the Pope, marched to the Holy Land of Jerusalem to reclaim it from Muslim forces. Every piece of armor and every sword from that era carries its own history, and now, thanks to an ordinary diver, a 900-year-old fragment of that past has resurfaced beneath the clear waters of Haifa Bay. But the sword wasn't the only discovery. Shlomi Katzin also stumbled upon several other artifacts nearby, including stone anchors and fragments of ancient pottery. Realizing their importance and the risk of them being stolen if left underwater, he immediately reported everything to the IAA. The agency quickly responded and confirmed that this was indeed an extraordinarily valuable find. According to them, the historical significance of the sword alone is enough to classify it among the most exceptional archaeological treasures ever recovered. What makes this story even more remarkable is the role nature played in unveiling the treasure. For nearly 1,000 years, the sword lay silent, buried under sand and marine growth like a giant sleeping secret. And then, with just one shift in the currents, the sand was swept away, revealing the sword as if it were ready to tell its story again. When you look at the sword, you're not just seeing a weapon, you're seeing an entire era. The journeys of Crusader knights, their perilous battles, and the dramatic history they lived through. And it was the unexpected discovery of an amateur diver that bridged past and present, allowing us to touch history in the most vivid way. This discovery is also a reminder that even objects long forgotten at the bottom of the sea can rise again when the moment is right, and astonish the world. In the eyes of experts, every tiny detail, from the layer of sand to the traces of marine life, tells its own story, turning the sword into more than an artifact. It becomes living proof of history's endurance. If you've ever dreamed of hidden treasures beneath the ocean, this is proof that sometimes history is simply waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. And now, under the glow of dive lights and camera lenses, this 900-year-old sword is ready to tell us about the Crusader knights, their heroic battles, and a past that will never be forgotten. An Egyptian city submerged for 2,000 years. If one day you were diving in the deep blue waters off the coast of Alexandria and suddenly saw the faint outline of a sphinx face emerging from the seafloor, you'd probably feel chills running down your spine, as if you were touching an entire lost civilization. And that was exactly what Egyptian divers experienced when they first uncovered several ancient statues lifted from the water on August 21st, a moment that drew the world's attention back to this seemingly quiet stretch of sea. The story began when archaeologists announced they had discovered part of the ancient city of Canopus, a once thriving center during the Ptolemaic dynasty and later under the Roman Empire, lasting nearly 900 years in total. But now, the entire city rests silently beneath the waves. What were once residential districts, temples, and industrial structures have been reduced to broken limestone buildings and sandy walkways. Over centuries, repeated earthquakes and rising sea levels swallowed both Canopus and Herakleion, two ancient ports that were once bustling gateways of Mediterranean trade. And now, ages later, Egyptian officials were left awestruck as divers celebrated around the massive millennia-old statues being lifted by cranes. Among them was a sphinx bearing the inscription of Ramses II, the longest reigning pharaoh in ancient Egyptian history. There were also royal statues from the pre-Roman period, including a headless granite Ptolemaic statue and the lower half of a Roman aristocrat sculpted in marble. Egypt's Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Sharif Fathi, noted that the number of underwater artifacts is almost unimaginable. yet the amount that can be recovered is extremely limited. He emphasized that most of these treasures will continue to rest beneath the sea as part of Egypt's heritage, mysterious and vulnerable to the erosion of time and nature. But it wasn't only statues. Archaeologists also found water reservoirs and fish breeding basins carved directly into the rock, evidence that Canopus once relied on a remarkably sophisticated hydraulic system. And at a 410-foot-long harbor, they discovered ancient merchant ships, stone anchors, and even a type of crane used from the Ptolemaic period through the Roman era, and still present during Byzantine times. Each artifact is like a puzzle piece, slowly reconstructing the picture of a city that once thrived along the Mediterranean. Yet here lies the irony. While the world is busy marveling at a long-lost submerged city, Alexandria itself, the very place where divers are working, may be heading toward the same fate. The ancient coastal city is sinking at a rate of about 0.12 inches per year, and according to United Nations forecasts, even in the most optimistic scenario, by 2050 1/3 of Alexandria may be flooded or uninhabitable. So the next time you see footage of a Sphinx statue rising from the water amid cheers, think about this. In just a few decades, future divers may be doing the very same thing with Alexandria itself, a city still very much alive today. A 5-mile-long strange object reveals traces of a famous ancient city in history. Have you ever wondered whether the ancient stories about the lost city of Atlantis, first mentioned more than 2,000 years ago, could actually be real? Probably not, right? But guess what? A shocking discovery on Google Earth recently reignited hope among those fascinated by deep-sea mysteries, especially those who have long believed Atlantis might truly exist. The story begins with Scott C. Waring, a well-known UFO researcher who claimed he recently discovered a strange object on the ocean floor, stretching up to 5 miles in length. According to him, the structure and shape of this object match descriptions of the lost city of Atlantis. It's perfectly circular and located surprisingly close to Peru's Nazca Desert, famous for its massive geoglyphs that the world still cannot fully explain. Speaking of Nazca, many of us have heard of its giant animal-shaped lines carved into the ground by removing thin layers of soil to reveal colorful sediment beneath. These lines extend for about 50 miles, were first spotted in 1939 by a pilot flying overhead, and were later designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. Yet why the Nazca people created such massive figures remains an unsolved mystery. Scott Waring believes the Nazca lines are directly connected to the strange object deep beneath the ocean, and that this might be the key to the mysterious disappearance of Atlantis. According to Waring, the circular underwater object has a dome-shaped structure similar to how many imagine Atlantis. He even put forward a bold hypothesis that Atlantis was actually an alien spacecraft, and the trace he found is proof of it. Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But because Atlantis is so mysterious and still unexplained, the idea becomes irresistibly intriguing. Let's travel back more than 2,300 years, when the Greek philosopher Plato first mentioned Atlantis in his works Timaeus and Critias. Through dialogues between Socrates, Timaeus, Critias, and Hermocrates, Plato described Atlantis as a vast island blessed by the god Poseidon, inhabited by exceptionally intelligent and beautiful people. According to him, Atlantis was larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined and lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. Poseidon placed the city atop an isolated hill rising from the sea to protect his beloved Clado. The city was encircled by 5 rings of water and 5 rings of land, all connected by tunnels capable of housing ships, with gates and towers guarding each passage. A massive temple dedicated to Poseidon stood in the center, featuring a giant golden statue of the god riding a chariot drawn by winged horses, so tall it seemed to reach the sky. Atlantis wasn't just beautiful, it possessed unmatched civilization, a powerful military, and domination over the ocean, from Africa to Europe. But its glory was short-lived. In a single night around 9,600 BCE, a massive combination of earthquakes and floods sank the entire island into the sea. A shining civilization vanished, leaving behind endless questions and inspiring countless theories, from scientific to supernatural. Some scientific theories link Atlantis to the Greek island of Santorini, home to the advanced Minoan civilization destroyed by a volcanic eruption about 4,000 years ago. Others suggest Atlantis may be connected to the Bermuda Triangle, known for mysterious disappearances of ships and aircraft. Though no definitive evidence exists, these theories keep the legend alive. And now, with Scott Waring's discovery, it feels as if Atlantis is knocking on the door of the modern world once again. The remains of unlucky divers found at the bottom of a mysterious ocean blue hole. There are places on Earth whose names alone can make your heartbeat quicken, and the blue hole in Belize is definitely one of them. On April 11, 2019, a chilling discovery there stunned the entire underwater exploration community. A research team found the remains of divers who had been lost long ago at the bottom of the hole. The first person to uncover this terrifying truth was Leo Erica Bergman, a well-known explorer who discovered the skeletons of two lost divers. She immediately reported the finding to local authorities, and after inspection, officials decided to let the remains rest forever on the seafloor as a way to honor the unlucky souls who never returned. The blue hole, famous not only for its mesmerizing beauty but also for its deadly depth and mystery, has a diameter of about 984 feet and plunges to a depth of about 410 feet. It is both a paradise and a hell for thrill-seeking divers. No one knows the exact number of people who have died attempting to conquer it, but Bergman believes the two newly found skeletons may belong to some of the 3 divers reported missing in recent years. What makes the blue hole so dangerous isn't just its depth, but the brutal environment below. At around 295 feet, there is a highly toxic layer of hydrogen sulfide, a corrosive, deadly compound. The water has no oxygen, and the presence of hydrogen sulfide means that anyone who isn't thoroughly prepared could die almost instantly. This invisible enemy has turned the blue hole into a deadly trap, responsible for countless tragic accidents. The blue hole isn't just a giant pit in the ocean, it's a product of geological history spanning thousands of years. It formed during the Ice Age, when sea levels were much lower. As the ice melted and the oceans rose, the hole flooded, creating a massive underwater cave system. These caves are breathtakingly beautiful, yet they have also claimed the lives of many who dared to explore them. Some scientists even describe the blue hole as an underwater graveyard, filled with unanswered stories and lurking danger. Each descent into the blue hole is a confrontation with your own limits. Around you is nothing but endless darkness, the faint sound of water, and the subtle scent of hydrogen sulfide, an atmosphere both majestic and haunting. This is a place where not everyone survives, and where even a single mistake can cost a life. Bergman's discovery reminds us of an important truth. The ocean still holds countless mysteries far beyond human reach. The skeletons found are only the tip of the iceberg. Many more life and death stories still lie silently hidden in the deep. At the same time, they remind us to respect nature. Sometimes, certain mysteries are meant to stay untouched, preserved as the very secrets that make our world so wondrous. A giant dragon skeleton at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. The floor of the Mediterranean Sea has always been a place shrouded in mystery, but in 2017, one discovery sent chills through both the online community and the scientific world. A diver equipped with a remotely operated robot stumbled upon a massive skeleton at a depth of about 2,723 feet. Its strange shape so unusual that many couldn't help but think of the dragons of legend. Footage captured by the robot showed an unusually long spine and several nearly intact bone segments. The video spread rapidly across social media, sparking heated debates everywhere. The person who shared the footage was Deborah Hatswell, a researcher known for studying mysterious phenomena. Immediately, the internet split into multiple camps. Some were convinced the skeleton was proof of a mythical dragon. Others argued it might be a giant serpent, while several scientists suggested it was probably a whale skeleton based on the bone structure and number of vertebrae. But what puzzled everyone most was the absence of a skull, leaving the true identity of the creature a complete mystery. Upon closer inspection, the skeleton appeared to have at least 7 vertebrae along with 2 large scale-like bones. This led some to believe it might be a mammal. However, the diver later discovered that the bones were extremely brittle and fragile, making it impossible to collect physical samples for analysis. Even more intriguing, numerous ancient amphora jars were found scattered around the site, a sign that the creature may have sunk to the seafloor roughly 1,000 years ago. After reviewing the video, One biologist suggested the structure could belong to a Tylosaurus, a species of marine lizard that went extinct millions of years ago. Still, confirming this would require actual bone samples, something currently impossible due to the robot's limited ability to safely retrieve them. These challenges only deepen the mystery. Was this the remains of an ancient creature, or could it truly belong to some sort of legendary unknown species? The story of this massive skeleton forces us to ask, how many secrets does the ocean still keep hidden from us? What we see is only the tip of the iceberg. Thousands of creatures have disappeared into the deep, leaving behind faint, puzzling traces like this strange set of bones. Each expedition and every bit of footage, captured by remotely operated vehicles, brings us one step closer to the truth, while reminding us that the ocean is vast, enigmatic, and endlessly dangerous. A 7,000-year-old road hidden beneath the waters of Croatia. Beneath the deep blue waters about 16 feet off the coast of Korčula Island in Croatia, where most of us only think of fish, seaweed, and calm coral reefs, experts recently made a startling discovery: a neatly arranged row of stones, as if someone had carefully laid each slab thousands of years ago. What amazed them even more was that these weren't natural rocks. This was an ancient road, lying undisturbed beneath the sea for 7,000 years. According to a research team from the University of Zadar, the site dates back to around 5000 BCE. That means, at a time when human hands were still rough and tools limited, someone was skilled and knowledgeable enough to construct a durable stone road capable of surviving to the present day. But the mystery didn't stop there. Following the stone slabs underwater, archaeologists discovered that the road led directly to a prehistoric settlement, once part of the Hvar civilization, which flourished between 5000 and 2500 BCE. If you've heard of ancient cultures like Starčevo, Vinča, or Danilo Kosovo, Hvar was another remarkable civilization that thrived in what is now Croatia. Its people settled here roughly 7,000 years ago and left behind distinctive traces, including pottery and handcrafted tools, uncovered in previous excavations. Yet before this stone road emerged beneath the crystal-clear water, no one could have imagined that the Hvar people might have constructed such an impressive engineering feat. Earlier underwater surveys had only uncovered a few shards of pottery and scattered tools. No one expected that all of that was merely the tip of the iceberg, and that the deeper hidden part of this mystery would only now be revealed. For this reason, many experts believe that the Hvar civilization was very likely the builder of this ancient road. But the biggest question remains unanswered. Why was a road connecting the prehistoric settlement to the island's shore submerged beneath the sea? Rising waters, earthquakes, or perhaps some even more mysterious reason? For now, all explanations are speculative. The archaeological team has stated that they plan to continue expanding their research, conducting both underwater and onshore excavations to uncover answers. Behind this 7,000-year-old stone road may lie a story buried by time, a story of a lost civilization, of people who once walked this path every day, and of the reason why the entire structure was eventually swallowed by the sea. What do you think? Is this simply the result of centuries of rising waters, or is there a greater secret waiting to be revealed? Personally, I believe the deeper we dig, the more directions the story unfolds. And perhaps this is only the beginning of the journey to unravel the mysteries of this ancient civilization. 40 mysterious vents on the Antarctic seafloor, a wake-up call for planet Earth. What if I told you that beneath Antarctica's thousands of years thick ice, there's more than just water and ice? There are strange vents quietly releasing greenhouse gases? Sounds terrifying, right? But this is precisely the latest discovery that has shocked the global scientific community. More than 40 methane vents, or leakage points, have just been detected on the seafloor of the Ross Sea, one of the areas previously considered among the most stable on Earth. Recently, an international research team used remotely operated underwater vehicles to survey this part of the ocean, which for years had shown no unusual geological activity. This time, however, at depths ranging from 16 to 790 feet, they discovered over 40 methane leaks, a number scientists describe as unprecedented. What's particularly concerning is that most of these vents are in shallow waters, where methane bubbles barely dissolve before escaping directly into the atmosphere. That's extremely alarming because methane is a potent greenhouse gas. In its first 20 years in the atmosphere, Methane traps heat about 80 times more effectively than carbon dioxide, meaning even small releases can disrupt Earth's energy balance and accelerate global warming. Previously, Antarctica had only one confirmed methane leak, identified in 2011 at McMurdo Sound. Now, what was once considered an extremely rare phenomenon is appearing much more widely. Sarah Seabrook of Earth Sciences New Zealand warns that this could signal a fundamental shift in Antarctica's geological and biological seafloor systems. The main cause of these leaks is climate change. Rising global temperatures are melting ice, reducing pressure on seafloor sediments, and releasing methane that has been trapped for thousands of years. Professor Andrew Thurber from Oregon State University cautions that if warming continues, Antarctica could transform from a peaceful research zone into a high-risk area for global climate instability. These newly discovered vents are particularly dangerous because methane-consuming microbes haven't had time to develop, so most of the gas escapes directly into the atmosphere. Even more alarming is the feedback loop this creates. Ice melts, methane is released. Earth warms, ice melts faster. If this loop continues, the consequences for our planet could be catastrophic. Perhaps the scariest part? This is happening in a region long thought to be the most stable on Earth. It's not just New Zealand and US scientists reporting this phenomenon. A team of Spanish geologists has also documented massive methane columns reaching up to 2,300 feet off the Antarctic coast. They describe this as a giant emission that could be an environmental bomb for the global climate. All of this signals one crucial point. Antarctica no longer serves as a natural buffer against climate change. The increasing number of vents in the same area shows that geochemical processes on the seafloor are changing faster than expected, and methane emissions may be underestimated in current climate models. As Professor Thurber emphasizes, we are witnessing a rare planetary-scale disruption, and the scariest part is that it's happening in the place once considered the calmest on Earth. Each of these seafloor vents is not just a geological feature, it is a wake-up call, reminding us to confront the dangers of climate change before it's too late. The submarine that sank 3 times in the ocean. In the countless tales of naval history, few ships have had a fate as strange and mysterious as the H.L. Hunley, the submarine linked to the American Civil War in 1863. Think about it. A ship that sinks on its very first mission is already rare, but Hunley sank 3 times, each for a different reason, and the final sinking remained a mystery that puzzled researchers for more than a century. Isn't that extraordinary? The story begins in 1863, when Hunley was deployed by the Confederate Navy with a mission to break the Union blockade of Charleston Harbor, a task critical for the survival of the South, as Charleston was a key gateway. But nobody expected that Hunley would sink almost immediately after setting out, missing its first chance to prove its capabilities. Salvage teams later concluded that the submarine had become entangled in ropes and pulled straight down, as if the sea itself were holding it back. Despite this setback, Hunley was not abandoned. After being raised and repaired, the submarine set out again on its second mission. But the sea was unforgiving. During operations, a crew member accidentally failed to close a vital valve, allowing water to rush in and sink the vessel a second time. A small mistake, but the consequence was enough to leave Hunley resting quietly on the ocean floor for a long while. Then came the third attempt. Undeterred, the submarine was raised, repaired, and assigned a new mission in 1874. This time, Hunley accomplished something no submarine had ever done before. It sank the Union warship USS Housatonic. This heroic achievement should have immortalized Hunley as a legend. And in a sense, it did. But in the way nobody wanted. The submarine disappeared immediately afterward, and nobody understood why. There were no distress signals, no floating debris, no clue of what had happened. Hunley vanished in 1874 like a ghost, leaving a mystery that lasted 131 years. It wasn't until 1995, after persistent searching, that Hunley's remains were discovered buried beneath thick layers of sand on the deep ocean floor, but what they found was no longer a ship. It was a corroded metal wreck, the hull shattered by time and water pressure. Salvaging it proved to be extremely difficult. Not until 2000 did experts finally bring Hunley to the surface and begin the painstaking process of unraveling the mystery that had surrounded it for more than a century. The submarine had suffered such extensive damage that there were concerns. Many artifacts, personal belongings of the crew, and even key clues might still lie scattered somewhere on the ocean floor. Every inch of the vessel had to be carefully examined. Every fragment of metal, every small detail could hold the key to answering the question, what caused Hunley's final sinking? It's fair to say that Hunley was more than just a submarine. It was a 131-year mystery, a story of persistence, tragedy, and the terrifying silence of the ocean. Sometimes, the mysteries swallowed by the sea are the ones that leave us most in awe. What do you think? Will the truth behind Hunley's third sinking ever be revealed? Or will it remain forever in the shadows of the deep ocean? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The wreck of the Vasa and its 20-minute mission. A ship 224 feet long, carrying 64 heavy cannons. Just hearing that, you can sense the power and ambition, right? Yet the Vasa, the pride of 17th century Swedish royalty, sank to the bottom of the Baltic Sea in just 20 minutes. Even more bitter, from the moment construction began, the entire nation of Sweden eagerly awaited the day Vasa would set sail, seeing it as a symbol of their emerging great power. But life rarely follows the plan, and Vasa became the most vivid proof of the saying, haste makes waste. To understand why a ship hailed as a technical marvel of 1628 ended in such disaster, we need to go back to the height of Sweden's glory. Under King Gustav II, Adolf, Sweden won every battle, vanquishing enemies from Denmark to Poland and Russia, turning the Baltic into their own backyard. To assert this absolute power, the king demanded a warship worthy of the crown, a vessel more important than life itself, and thus the Vasa was born. The ship was entrusted to Captain Henrik Heibertsson, who designed it with lavish carvings from bow to stern, symbolizing the authority of the entire dynasty. But trouble began when Denmark boasted about building a ship with 2 gun decks. Upon hearing this, the king immediately ordered Vasa to be upgraded. 2 decks of cannons, longer, stronger, superior in every way. So, from an original design of 108 feet long, Vasa was stretched to 224 feet, with added decks, more cannons, and greater weight. Yet the hull was not widened proportionally. The center of gravity soared, leaving the enormous ship top-heavy and unstable, like it was standing on one leg. Worse, these constant design changes were made without proper documentation. 5 separate shipbuilding teams worked independently, each doing their own thing. Heibertsson fell ill and died mid-project, leaving unfinished work to his assistant Jacobsen. All of this unfolded under intense pressure from the king, who wanted the ship launched as soon as possible. Then came August 10, 1628. Amid cheers from thousands in Stockholm, Vasa proudly set sail. But misfortune struck. A strong gust of wind caused the heavy ship to tilt dangerously. The second gust was enough to finish it. Water poured in through the gun ports, and before the astonished eyes of the nation, Sweden's mightiest warship sank, claiming about 30 lives. Even more shocking, a month earlier, during a tilt test, the crew had discovered that Vasa was dangerously unstable. That report was ignored, probably because no one dared anger the king. Vasa lay forgotten for over 300 years on the Baltic seabed. In 1961, it was discovered and salvaged in one of the most remarkable excavations of the 20th century. Fortunately, the cold, low-oxygen water preserved the ship almost intact. 95% of the hull was restored. Over 40,000 artifacts were recovered inside, from crew members' personal items to intricate carvings. Not long after, the Vasa Museum in Stockholm became the most visited attraction in Scandinavia. But the story didn't end there. After decades on display, the ship began to deteriorate and tilt, almost reenacting its fate from 4 centuries ago. Experts had to replace nails, adjust humidity, and prevent decay by millimeters each year. Vasa, from the pride of an empire to a costly lesson in haste, continues to tell its story to the world. And the lesson is clear: no matter how strong, even the smallest mistake can sink the grandest dream. Have you ever made a mistake? If not, look at Vasa and remember, even the tiniest error can cost everything, even your life. 72 villages. Are there still signs of life? The underwater world has always been a mysterious realm that humans are eager to explore. Recently, a shocking discovery has sparked numerous hypotheses about the ocean floor. Scientists have uncovered 72 ancient villages beneath the sea, where traces of life still remain. This finding not only raises new questions, but also makes us wonder whether there could have been an underwater civilization that we never knew existed. This discovery could potentially solve some of the ocean floor's long-standing mysteries. Who once lived in these villages? What were their lifestyles and cultures like? And why did they choose to live beneath the sea? These questions naturally ignite curiosity and a deep desire to learn more. After decades of research, scientists have confirmed that these villages provide evidence of ancient human presence under the sea. Numerous artifacts have been found, including pottery, fishing hooks, and nets. The existence of these items proves that these areas were once inhabited and used for fishing activities. Even household tools and graves have been discovered, further supporting the hypothesis that humans once lived in this region. The reason ancient humans may have chosen to live underwater could be linked to the abundant resources of the marine environment. The ocean floor offered rich biodiversity, while land-based resources might not have been sufficient to meet their needs. Additionally, the underwater environment could have provided protection from threats posed by hostile tribes. This discovery not only sheds light on the development of ancient civilizations, but also challenges our understanding of human adaptability. Previously, it was assumed that humans could only exist on land, but these findings suggest they were capable of living and thriving in marine environments. Furthermore, the underwater ruins help us better understand the relationship between humans and marine life. Artistic works and sculptures depicting sea creatures indicate that there may have been a deep connection between ancient civilizations and the ocean ecosystem. This discovery is not only a significant step forward in archaeology, but also raises profound questions about human history and origins. Could these villages be part of a lost ancient civilization? Or are we witnessing the beginning of a new chapter in human history? Regardless of whether these villages were truly inhabited, the discovery offers valuable insights and inspiration. Perhaps this is just the tip of the iceberg, with many more secrets of the underwater world still waiting to be uncovered. Whether you are a scientist, an explorer, or an ordinary person, we must remain open-minded and continue to work diligently to explore the unknown. Only by doing so can we truly understand and appreciate the world, as well as the significance of coexistence between humans and nature. As you can see, the vast ocean always holds countless mysterious secrets. In a short video, we can't possibly cover all the mysteries that the deep sea has hidden for thousands, even millions of years. This really shows how small we humans are compared to the world around us. So, what do you think of today's topic? Do you know of any other mysterious underwater archaeological sites? Don't hesitate to share them in the comments so everyone can explore together. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed this video. For now, that's all from us. See you next time.